Venezuela. The United States is complicit in the horrific events in Palestine. I'm not understanding this blind spot of hubris of the American people. I'm not understanding the moral authority. When I hear people call into your show and talk about Putin's going to take this or Poland, I'm no Putin apologist. I'm simply saying Putin's geopolitical calculus is different. Putin is not separated by two oceans with two fore and aft vassal states, as in Canada and Mexico. Putin is surrounded by four nuclear powers: Pakistan, India, North Korea, and China. His geopolitical calculus is entirely different. I'm not understanding this. The United States has bombed Afghanistan, Iran, killed millions of people, thousands and thousands of miles away. What is this? Are the American, is the American public looking at this globally? Are we looking at, as a people, how the world views us right now? We talk about elections and democracy all over the world, but look at what we're doing to our own. Gerrymandering, nullifying of voting rights. The Voting Rights Act, as it was passed, I believe it was 65 or 64, I forget, civil rights, voting rights. But the thing is that it is nothing like what it looked like. It has been diluted to the point where it's almost non-existent. Yeah. Tell me, Tom, what am I missing?
I'm not sure you're missing anything, Kenyatta. I've not throughout my life, I have not been a big fan of American foreign policy. I was my political awareness was really birthed in the crucible of anti-Vietnam War work. So, I share your perspective. I get that. In terms of the parties, it just seems to me that we have one political party that has abandoned democracy, any idea of democracy, and that's a tragedy. That's not to say that the Democratic Party is perfect or fully embraces democracy. Just ask anybody who, just ask Bernie Sanders, but who's also an independent, like you, Kenyatta. Kenyatta, I got to run. I'm sorry.
Okay, but these are perilous times, my friend.
They are, yeah. Keep writing that great Substack newsletter. Thank you. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Richard Wolff's Understanding Socialism. This is from the introduction. Socialism is a kind of yearning for a better life than what capitalism permits for most people. Socialist yearnings are as old as capitalism itself because they are its products. Where and when capitalism's problems and failings have accumulated criticism and critics, socialist voices have arisen. And so it is again now. Any serious discussion of socialism must begin by acknowledging socialism's rich diversity. Whatever particular aspect of socialism we choose to analyze, they need to be located within socialism's complexity. That avoids presenting one's own interpretation as if it were the entirety of socialism. In this book, I focus on the economic aspects of socialism, how it differs from capitalism in broad outlines. I'm more interested in socialist critiques of capitalism and their implications about socialist alternatives than in the particulars of the few early experiments in erecting socialist systems, USSR, People's Republic of China, and so on, that history so far offers. Finally, my own education and work constrain me to concentrate on Western Europe and North America. Some important aspects of socialism are thus not covered or discussed here. Yearnings for better lives, such as socialism proposes, are not new. In slave societies, the slaves hoped and dreamed of lives less hard and less out of their own control. Their yearning aimed to obtain freedom. They sought social change that would preclude any one person being the property of another. In feudal societies, the serfs, free in the sense that no one owned them, yearned for better lives too. Their subordination to lords included heavy labor and other burdens that they wanted lifted. They hoped and dreamed of a society in which they would not be bound to the land, the lord of that land, and the feudal dues of labor and subservience. The serfs mobilized in the 1789 French Revolution to demand liberty, equality, and brotherhood. In effect, the serfs had expanded on what the slaves had called freedom. In the American Revolution against British King George III, the revolutionaries were neither slaves nor serfs. They were mostly self-employed farmers, craftspeople, and merchants subject to a foreign feudal kingdom. They wanted liberty as individuals to pursue their dreams without hindrance from feudalism or monarchism, whether foreign or domestic. They added democracy to the goals advanced by the slaves and serfs before them. The different systems of slavery, feudalism, and small-scale self-employment produced masses of people yearning for better lives. Eventually, each of those systems provoked revolutions. Many people then sought to break away from and go beyond those systems. The French and American revolutions marked key moments in the social transformations of major pre-capitalist systems into capitalist ones. By capitalist system, we mean that particular organization of production in which the basic human relation is employer-employee instead of master-slave, lord-serf, or individual self-employment. The revolutionaries who wanted and built capitalism hoped and believed the transition to employer-employee relations of production would bring with them the liberty, equality, brotherhood, and democracy they had yearned for. The revolution's leaders promised to themselves and to the people they led that those goals would be achieved. But the transition to capitalist employer-employee relations that increasingly replaced the previous slave, feudal, and self-employment relations of production had unintended consequences. Capitalism soon proved to be different from what its revolutionaries had hoped. While it enabled some people to be more free and more independent than slaves, serf, or self-employed subjects of monarchies had been, it also seriously limited freedom, independence, and democracy for many. Capitalism betrayed many of the promises made by its advocates. It produced and reproduced great inequalities of income and wealth. Poverty proved to be as endemic as capitalism seemed equally adept at producing and reproducing both wealth and poverty. The capitalist rich used their wealth to shape and control politics and culture. Democratic forms hid very undemocratic content. The cyclical instability attending capitalism constantly threatened and hurt large numbers of people, and so on. Growing numbers of employees within capitalism began to yearn for better lives. They defined those yearnings first in the familiar terms of the earlier French and American revolutions: equality, fraternity, liberty, and democracy. They criticized a capitalism that failed to deliver those to most people and demanded social changes to achieve them. Many people still continue to want a better, softer, friendlier capitalism, where government regulates and intervenes to achieve more of what the French and American revolutionaries had yearned for and promised. They are also often self-defined as socialists. However, capitalism's development provoked another, different perspective that also called itself socialism. In that view, capitalism had not broken from slavery, feudalism, and monarchy nearly as much as its advocates had imagined. Slavery had master slaves, feudalism had lord serfs, and monarchy had king subjects as their key sources of their inequalities, lack of freedom, oppressions, and conflicts.
The employer-employee relation of production and capitalism generated parallel problems. Capitalism installed monarchies inside individual workplaces, even as monarchies outside workplaces were rejected. Kings mostly disappeared, but inside workplaces, the owners or their designated boards of directors assumed king-like powers. The book Understanding Socialism by Richard Wolff.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, top of the Tuesday to you. I think it's Tuesday. It's hard to keep track. It's like the news right now is like drinking out of a fire hose. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Donald Trump this morning and Pete Hegseth addressed the military and basically said, okay, guys, are you ready to start attacking American cities? I'll give you the details on that in a minute. Also, the new big lie, the Republican left violence, is it's deadlier than you think. We'll talk about that. Last night, Trump released this grotesque AI-manufactured video on Truth Social in which Chuck Schumer is made to say an utter and despicable fabricated slur, calling Democrats woke pieces of, the S word for crap. While Hakeem Jeffries is wearing a sombrero and sporting a mushroom with mariachi music. Has Trump lost his mind? I mean, Eric Swalwell is calling for the 25th Amendment. It's incredible. In the second hour of our program, is Trump clueless about health care cuts, or is he being lied to, or is he getting senile? The shocking news coming out of the meeting that Jeffries and Schumer had with Trump yesterday in the White House. Also, is the Trump administration is now hiding federal data. This is how democracies die. It's not jackboots in the streets. It's the quiet silencing of data, the erasure of evidence, the destruction of our shared reality baseline. I mean, if we let this stand, we're surrendering the tools of truth itself and the very foundations of self-government. We'll get to that in the second hour. Our weird alert, does Mike Johnson have a Grindr profile? And what's with his express hatred of gays? Is this like J. Edgar Hoover or Roy Cohn? I don't know. It's a weird story. I'll tell you about that in the second hour of the program. In the third hour of our program, the Moldovan elections, which I told you Friday, we talked about at some length, happened on Sunday. The pro-EU party won. So Russia has a special message for the world about this. It's pretty shocking. I'll tell you about that in the third hour of the program. Also, California police, our crazy alert for the day. The California police are just confounded. What do we do? They stopped a car for making an illegal U-turn, and there was no driver. It was a Waymo car. What do you do with this? We'll talk about that too. So, a lot going on in the world today, and a lot to talk about, obviously. But my op-ed today at HartmannReport.com is about the new big lie. And this is, about kind of the history of big lies. I've played that FDR clip many, many times here where he talks about, we're seeing this new thing imported into our politics. It came from the dictators in Europe, specifically Italy and Germany. And it's that never tell a small lie, always tell a big one, because by its very audacity, it will be believed if you repeat it over and over again. And so, we're all familiar with Trump's 2020 big lie. In fact, that produced January 6th, where, 3 police officers died, 140 went to the hospital, and we nearly lost our democracy. And now, of course, Trump is in the process of dismantling our democracy. He got back into the White House. They're continuing that big lie. That's one that the GOP started back in the 1960s with Operation Eagle Eye, the big lie that there are illegal immigrants who are voting and there's massive voter fraud, and there's neither. But they used that big lie to knock 4.2 million people off the voting rolls in the 2024 election, which is why Trump is in the White House, according to the math that Greg Palast laid out for us, which all came from government statistics. 4.2 million registered citizen voters were not able to cast their vote. Most of them because they'd been purged from voting rolls in red states, blue cities in red states by and large. And many of them because they were either given provisional ballots or their ballots were challenged if they were mail-in ballots. So, you know, they use that. But now they've got a new big lie. And this is a whopper, and that is that the violence in America is caused by the radical left, like, you know, here in Portland, right? People on unicycles carrying pride flags, you know, with cute dogs. I mean, that's really, Portland, you know, they say keep Portland weird, right? You know, I guess I should start every show with broadcasting from the war zone, of Portland, Oregon. But this big lie actually has serious consequences. It has very serious consequences. And in fact, in his speech this morning to the generals, Donald Trump, basically laid it out. He said, and I quote, "American inner cities are a big part of war now." He said, "It seems that the ones that are run by radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war too. It's a war within. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for the military and the National Guard. You got to do what you got to do." You get that? American cities. Portland. He's going to turn Portland into a training ground for the military. What does the military do when it trains? It blows things up and it pretends to kill people when it's training. But if you're training in an actual combat situation, you do kill people. Is that what Trump is telling us? That he's sending these soldiers with these weapons of war, these automatic weapons, here into Portland and into Chicago and Los Angeles and Memphis and probably other cities soon. If Mamdani gets elected in November in New York City, you can bet that, you know, New York will be on his list. This big lie has real consequences. And they're fanning this. I mean, it's just incredible. You've got this guy this former Marine with PTSD. He was in Iraq and Afghanistan, who has a Trump sign in his yard and was wearing a T-shirt that says, "Trump, make liberals cry again." Shoots up a church, a Mormon church, a Latter-day Saints church in Michigan, and sets it on fire, kills 4 people, injures a bunch of others. And Trump is out there going, it's anti-Christian, it's the radical, you know, they took down from the Department of Homeland Security's website, from the FBI's website, they took down the report that the DHS itself prepared showing that the vast majority of politically inspired violence in the United States is coming from the right. It's coming from people who are aligned with the Republican Party, and many of them are openly Trump supporters. What's with that? And now they're trying to tell us that, oh, it's the radical left that's causing the problems in America. We got to take on the radical left. There is no radical left in America. I mean, I remember when there was. I was in SDS at MSU back in the 1960s. And there were people that I knew who were, you know, just totally anti-capitalist, and we got to burn down the system and, you know, take it down and start over from scratch. And, you know, the Soviet Union might be a good example of how we should run this country and all this kind of stuff, all this kind of crap, frankly. And most of us in SDS thought they were nuts. I mean, keep in mind, the Port Huron statement that Tom Hayden started SDS with back in the early 60s was all about racial justice in the United States and ending poverty in the United States and empowering women in the United States. SDS kind of morphed into an anti-Vietnam War organization, but it was always about, you know, peace And then, the Weather Underground kind of spun off, if you've probably seen the movie. And for that matter, Leonardo DiCaprio's new movie, One Battle After Another, which is absolutely brilliant if you haven't seen it. But that radical left doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there might be a few people who are running around preaching that stuff, but they're not the ones out there with guns. The radical left, so-called, the Bernie left, is far more interested in stopping guns, in giving everyone health care and making sure that young people can go to college. But here we have this big lie, followed by a bunch of small lies, that immigrants are the source of crime, that Democrats are the party of rapists and pedophiles, Jeffrey Epstein and Jean Carroll, that Democrats want to defund the police, that Democrats want abortion after birth. Yes, Trump said that. The Biden wanted to ban gas stoves and gasoline cars. Biden wanted to ban meat. The Democrats plan on huge tax increases in the middle class. No. That Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization. There ain't no such thing. I mean, my dad was Antifa. He volunteered to fight in World War II to fight fascists. The Democrats are deranged pieces of bleep. And that liberals want to, quote, this is a quote from Donald Trump, force taxpayers to fund transgender surgery for minors nationwide and reopen the wall, Trump said yesterday. I mean, this is nuts. It's way past time. The Democrats and our media started calling this stuff out for what it is. The big lie. I realize that big lies travel faster than the speed of light on social media, and the right-wingers who own the big media platforms have tweaked their algorithms to promote big lies and just kind of average, boring news and anything from the left. And here we are. What do we do?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I think we call it out like FDR did and just tell people exactly what it is. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Mark in Valley, Washington. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom. I'm just, I want to put a call out to your listeners to do what I just got done doing before I called your show. If you have a Republican congressman who wasn't one of the rare ones that actually signed on to the discharge petition, call your congressman up and ask him a couple questions. My first question is, how do you feel? How does my congressman feel about troops in American cities and ICE agents beating the crap out of American citizens? And then my second question is, why hasn't he signed on to the discharge petition? Because at this point, you're going to fall in one of two camps. You're either going to be anti-pedophilia or pro-pedophilia. And right now, with him not signing that discharge petition, I hate to tell you, he's fallen in the pro-pedophilia camp, and there's no other way to look at it. Let's start putting these guys on the spot.
Yeah. Good plan, Mark. Good plan. Good on you. Who's your representative that you called?
Baumgarten, and he represents Spokane and the northern northeast Washington area.
And he's a MAGA Republican?
Oh, yeah, hardcore.
Oh, wow. Well, good on you. I'm glad to hear what you did, and how did they respond?
Well, it's the typical response. Well, I don't really know the congressman's position on that. I haven't spoke to him about this, and I can't speak for the congressman, but I will reflect your opinions to him. Yeah, the typical pat answer.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, Mark, thanks a lot. Thanks for that, and good on you. Good on you. Joe in Van Nuys, California. Hey, Joe, what's up?
Hi, Tom.
Hey, I need you to get your mouth closer to the microphone. I'm having a hard time hearing you. You can keep your phone on speaker. Just put the microphone next to your mouth.
Okay. Well, is this better?
Yeah. What's up?
I could take it. Okay. Crazy times that we're living on, and we don't have words that can describe this crazy that we're living in. Okay. And I know last week I called in and I made up a thing called Republican, but this is a little different, even though it is as bombastic and crazy.
Joe, you're fading out again. Whatever you're doing, if you could just do a normal phone for me, please.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think what's happening today is people are lying and making lies about reality and then trying to make it logical. Trying like to make a square peg go in a round circle.
Yep. It's kind of my rant today.
So, yeah. So if you take a lie and you try to make it logical, okay, that's the new word, liacal. That's what they're doing, trying to make their lies fit some kind of logic. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that we haven't done in our past when we get pulled over and we make up a lie to try to get out of a ticket or something,
Mm-hmm.
But this is huge and bombastic and crazy what they're doing, like we don't need justice, or justice for all means only justice for the 1%, or some kind of crazy thing, and they try to make it fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, better yet, the deep state. Okay, the deep state somehow is being flipped. Now, because I'm a conspiracy person, I used to think that the deep state were the kind of people that would try to overthrow the United States government in 1935. Okay, hear the music, so that's going to be the end of it.
Yeah. Well, I get your point.
Now,
the deep state is the bureaucrats. It's the bureaucracy, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually a good thing. You want stability. You want a deep level of stability in the government. Joe, thank you. Thank you for the call. I'm sorry we ran out of time there, but welcome to the radio business. Good talking to you. 21 minutes past the hour. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. People in the Rust Belt states know all about tariffs. They know that tariffs kept jobs in the Rust Belt states for centuries, literally, that America was built on tariffs. It's one of the reasons Donald Trump got elected in 2016 was because he talked about tariffs. But for some reason right now, the Harris-Walz campaign, or Democrats in general, are reluctant to talk about tariffs. They call them sales taxes or something like that. They really need to be a little more straightforward because people, particularly in the industrial Midwest, or in the Rust Belt, as we call it now, are not dumb. They know what's going on. They know where we've been and how we got here. And I think it's pretty important to be talking about tariffs and what they are, how they work, and how they can bring manufacturing back home. I wrote a piece about it for Hartmann Report. It's titled, Why Trump is Wrong and Alexander Hamilton Was Right About Tariffs. And I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating at hartmannreport.com. Check it out.
They say we're hiding in basements, plotting the nation's fall. But the scariest thing we're scheming is health care that covers us all. Oh, the last radical lefty, he's dangerous, can't you see? He's armed with a clipboard and compost and a plan to save Social Security. They call us violent anarchists, but our weapons don't really harm. A tote bag of fair trade latte and kale from the co-op farm. So if democracy trembles and the right says we're all to blame, remember the terror they're warning about. Can't even spell your name. Yes, the last radical lefty, a menace you must confess. He'll terrify Wall Street billionaires with his vote for higher tax rates, I guess. Beware, he's coming for your health insurance paperwork.
this is Portland. This is the radical left. Yes, we want Social Security. We want Medicare for everybody. We're oh, jeez. The right wing has gone nuts about Bad Bunny. Are you getting this? The NFL says, yeah, we're going to have, Bad Bunny come and do our halftime show. And, oh, it's got the racists hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. Just like Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump this morning, basically telling the soldiers, number one, you're going to use the inner cities of America as training grounds. That's the word they used. Trump says, I told Pete we should use these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military. I mean, what the hell? And then Trump turns to the generals and says, if I don't like you, if you don't agree with what I tell you, I will fire you on the spot. In other words, he didn't need a loyalty oath. You know, in 1935 in Germany, Hitler had them all line up and say, I swear allegiance to Adolf Hitler. Trump just said, okay, you are loyal to me or I fire you, period. If you disagree, he said, if you don't agree with what I tell you. And then he tells them that they're going to use the military against the cities. He says the Department of War is going to stop wars. This was Trump. The Department of War, you can't change the name of the Department of Defense unless only Congress can change it. There is no such thing as a Department of War. He ranted for an hour. You've got now people across the social media calling for, saying this was incoherent, it was rambling. Eric Swalwell, the Democratic congressman from California, he says, 25th Amendment on X. I mean, this is just all over the place. Screenwriter Kevin Powers. The fact he said this to military officers who've likely lost people in Afghanistan is absolutely unhinged. This entire charade is 25th Amendment stuff. And it goes, it's just all over X right now. He says, soldiers, when they're in American cities, he said, I saw protesters, he says, yelling at soldiers. He says, you want to knock the hell out of the person, but you can't. He said, if it's okay with you, generals and admirals, I've taken that off. I say, they spit, we hit. Is that okay? We think so. Oh, yeah. So you yell at the soldiers in your city and they shoot you? Is that what Trump is telling us?
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
What the hell is going on? It looks like America is turning into a neo-fascist state. I'll be back with your calls and your thoughts on this right after this. Today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Health Justice Now, Single Payer and What Comes Next by Timothy Faust. And this is from the introduction. A secret scream rings through America. It rings down the sterile fluorescent hallways of our hospitals. It rings over our rural towns and our native reservations. It rings through our prisons, the bellies of our great cities. It rings in our farms, in our fields, our streets, and our sewers, our bodies, and our blood. And we are cursed to never hear it clearly until, at last, we realize it has been our own mouth screaming and we are lost. A child born today inherits, in that secret, a new American squalor, the skeletal remains of the American cities, the bleached bones of the American suburbs. This secret is a birthright of continual exploitation, pumped for labor and drained of cash and then punished for the resulting suffering. Punished for being hungry, punished for being sick, punished for being pregnant, punished for being poor, punished for being black or brown, punished for being queer, for being unlucky, for being. At the base of that suffering is lodged a little truth, like a knot in the stomach. In America, sickness makes you poor, and poorness makes you sick. This is a book about that relationship and why it happens, and why it's unnecessary, and what we can do to fix it. The cosmic whirling of God's great slot machine has not determined that some people are fated to suffer while others flourish. We have the resources to take care of everyone, and yet we refuse to do so. Your medical debt and medical bills are unnecessary, but we have chosen to make them necessary. These are structural problems with structural causes, and many of them share roots in how we pay for health care.
This is a book about healthcare and health finance. They are different. Healthcare is anything that helps you stay safe and healthy. It's a kind of freedom from and within your own body. Health finance is the method by which we as a country pay for that freedom and by which we decide who gets to have it and who doesn't. Healthcare is more than what happens to you in the hospital. Healthcare is whether your home makes you sick, or your food makes you sick, or your environment makes you sick, or whether you have enough money to afford the things that keep you healthy. In America, the structure of corporate healthcare has convinced us that some people deserve healthcare and some people don't. This is a book about that corporate health finance, about private insurance and private insurers. For half a century, they've convinced us that they're the only things that keep us or could ever keep us from the utter financial ruination of illness. They've sold us different inadequate insurance plans and persuaded us that this is a form of great liberty, while chipping away at our freedoms for profit and holding our bodies and our children's bodies hostage. This is a book about single-payer healthcare, a health finance model in which we pool our abundant collective resources to provide health care to all people. It is a common model across the world. As we will discuss in this book, we have the potential not just to enact a single-payer program in America, but to build the greatest health care program among any so-called developed democracy. Here is my profession of faith. I believe beyond any doubt that single-payer is demonstrably sound and imminently feasible. I believe a properly ambitious and well-structured single-payer program will do more than any other American social program of this generation to soothe the burns, to resuscitate the spirit, to nourish the moral will of the American people. I believe it will loosen the loathsome manacles of American health finance, an exploitative institution that profits by plundering from us our own bodily autonomy, and that anchors a larger exploitation that holds those whom we love as captive leverage to guarantee our servitude to abusive employers or domestic partners, to those who seek to dominate us both in the office and in the hospital. I believe this nation owes its people, whose labor has created its rich banquet, the safety and agency of health care. I believe this health care is greater in scope than that which happens upon an operating table. I believe that housing, food, income, and more, the components of basic human dignity, are health care. And I believe our work is that of striving toward justice for all people. And I therefore believe, I have to believe, that single-payer health care is our moral imperative. Single-payer is our tool. Single-payer is our weapon. Single-payer is our first step. But single-payer on its own is not the goal. This book is about health justice. Healthcare is personal, so I want to start this book personally by introducing two friends of mine, Steve Way and Kyle Kolick. They're two guys about my age, I'm 30, who live in North New Jersey. They're sweet, gentle people, and probably the most charismatic pair of friends I've met in my entire life. They make me laugh until my face hurts, and we like watching pro wrestling together. They're also being utterly broken by our American healthcare system, and it's keeping them from living their lives. Steve has muscular dystrophy. The muscle and tissues that hold his body together are eating themselves. He's doing pretty good, all things considered. He beat his original life expectancy of 18 and now probably has a long life ahead of him. Steve needs a wheelchair to move and a ventilator to help him breathe. The book, Health Justice Now, Timothy Faust.
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
You wave the flag, you love the dream, but freedom crashed along the scene. It's not just talk when power speaks. Democracy dies in whispered leaks. Words matter when the state takes aim. Words matter, they can burn your name from the prison walls to the exile ships. It all begins on a leader's lips.
Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. So what say you about all this stuff going on? Did you catch parts of Hegseth and Trump's speech this morning to the generals? It was absolutely wild. Trump going off on these political rants. No president has ever done that before. Presidents don't do politics with the military. The whole, I mean, this was established by the founders of this country. George Washington, our military general, that you have an apolitical, a non-political military. And you don't talk politics to the military, and you don't ask them. And basically, Trump's speech and Hegseth's speech, but mostly Hegseth's speech this morning was about how we're only going to do merit, which is code for all these black people and these women in this audience, all of you generals out there who are black or female, you got here from DEI, and I'm going to take you out. And you could just, I mean, there's a picture going around the internet of a black subordinate, I don't know, chief of staff or whatever, sitting next to his general, and he's turning and looking at him like, what the hell? It's incredible what these guys are doing to our military, to our country. It's the warrior ethos. That's pathetic. You want a military that reflects America. In fact, Hegseth even attacked diversity. In his speech, he specifically was talking about, I got to find it here. And Trump goes off on the auto pen, right? Which was just nuts, too. But he says, no more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. He says, we will, this is the liberation of America's warriors in name and in authority. You kill people and break things for a living. Here, this is Hegseth. An entire generation of generals and admirals were told they must parrot the insane fallacy that our diversity is our strength. We have a new compass heading. It is clear. Out with the Chiarellis, the Mackenzies, and the Millies. In other words, out with the generals who thought that diversity is a good thing. This is code for we're going to have a white, male-only military, just like back in the 1920s. This is just so wrong. Stephanie in Chicago, what's on your mind today?
Well, I'm just giving you an update on what's happening with ICE. They're not
Chicago?
just downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're in Little Village, which is pretty much Hispanic. They're in South Shore area. They're also in Gage Park, heavily. Mm-hmm. My brother said they knocked on his neighbors next door and said, I need everybody in this house to show me their papers.
Whoa. Papers, please. Whoa.
So he said the lady just closed the door, and they said that if you don't let us in, we'll bust our way in.
And what happened next?
Well, he said that they believe they ran out the back door and ICE didn't see them. So, but he's not sure. But there is no ICE facility for them to be guarding. He claimed they're guarding the ICE facility and everything. And I was listening to what he said about, if they spit, we shoot. Mm-hmm. They are going to force someone. If they grab someone's 87-year-old grandmother and throw her on the ground, nobody's going to stand around and just let that happen. They're going to go to where they have to go to get this going so he can declare martial law and whatever he needs to declare.
Yeah. Yeah, they're declaring war on women and blacks and Hispanics in this country, period.
And they deliberately showed up when the Bears were playing. Now, if you're in Chicago, you know that it's more police down when the Bears are playing than it is on the force.
Yeah.
So, them showing up there for what? There was plenty of policemen down there. There was no bodies, no nothing. People were walking, going into restaurants. They were walking in and out of restaurants, just circling in and looking at people.
Well, the Supreme Court has said that they can racially profile now.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to do this without literally getting rid of Trump and Vance. And the farmers, they've been taking key, basically. The farmers here are just like, they're living. They don't know what to do. They got 0 orders of soy. 0, not half, not 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, there's only one thing to do is to impeach him, and I don't know.
Yep. Or the 25th Amendment. Yeah. Yep. Although Vance isn't much better. In fact, I think arguably I was interviewed this morning by a radio show in London. And they were like, isn't Vance part of this dark enlightenment, the Curtis Yarvin thing that says that democracy is old and outmoded and we need to do away with democracy and replace it with an autocracy, a dictatorship run by the tech lords, by the geniuses of the big tech industry? And I'm like, yeah, I think that's pretty much where J.D. Vance is at. And the guy is like, so if you guys impeach Trump or the 25th Amendment, which won't happen, of course, because it has to originate from the vice president and the cabinet. In the cabinet, he's got 13 billionaires in the cabinet. They're all toadies. But if that happens, you're going to end up with something even worse. And I guess the only upside of Vance is that he's not charismatic. He won't be able to spin things the way Trump can. But he'll still have the entire right-wing machine behind him. The Murdoch empire and of Fox and the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal and all this stuff, and all the other 1,500 right-wing stations, 3 right-wing television networks. Hundreds of right-wing publications, newspapers all across America, et cetera. So, yeah, it's a tough one, Stephanie.
Well, one other thing. They've been flying drones.
Mm-hmm.
They have helicopters been flying around here at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night.
Wow, looking for brown people.
And they've been advertising on our local radio stations for people to sign up to be part of ICE.
Wow. Stephanie, thank you. Thanks for the report from Chicago. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Bob in Desert Hot Springs, California. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind this morning?
Hey, Tom. Great to talk to you. Thank you for being who you are. I have a couple of questions for you. In my opinion, the progressive part of the Democratic Party is saving this country. The Bernie Sanders, the Elizabeth Warrens, the O'Connors. And my question to you is, Tom, what percent do you think of the Democratic Party is still corporation? What percent do you think is, progressive? And when do you see the Progressive Party taking control? Because the Democratic Party, the part that's corporation, is killing us.
Yeah.
What's your opinion, Tom? Thanks.
If you look at, as one indicator, membership in the Congressional Progressive Caucus, which is, the Democrats who say that they won't take corporate PAC money and they're in favor of, Medicare for all and free college and strengthening Social Security and building rebuilding our public education system and stuff like that. That's about half of the members of the House of Representatives. And so in the House, it looks like it's about 50-50. I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know the exact number, but, like 110, 120, something like that, out of 200 and something. In the Senate, you've got, there's a couple good solid progressives there, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, et cetera. So it's probably about 50-50 in the Senate, too. I think among average voters in the Democratic Party, the Democratic base, as it were, my guess is it's more like 80 or 90%. And I think that increasingly, you're seeing right now Schumer and Jeffries stand up to Trump and stand up to the Democrats with this budget, thing with the government shutdown. And, and they're taking the position of the progressives. And so I think that what's happening is that as the American voters are increasingly saying, we want these progressive policies, and all these progressive policies that are advocated by the Congressional Progressive Caucus poll above 70%, most of them above 80%, and well over 90% among Democrats. But I'm talking nationally. So I think they're waking up. It's just that you got a bunch of them, the Jared Goldens and Josh Gottheimers out there that are addicted to corporate cash. Bob, I got to run. Right. Thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls in just a minute, 45 minutes past the hour. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where smart people get their news. And welcome back. Tim in Seattle. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Hi, Tom. First-time caller.
Thank you.
We're in Bend, Oregon, and yesterday we were heading south on 97, heading for Crater Lake before they close it down. And a train went by, 2 engines pulling this train of flat cars. They were probably 60-foot flat cars. Each car had 3 armored vehicles on it. The lead cars had those small tanks with big barrels sticking out. The rest of them were just armored vehicles, all set up, ready to go. It was heading north for I reckon it was going up to the Columbia and then would head west toward Portland.
I was
probably 100 cars and no other cargo on that train except for armored vehicles.
Yeah. Louise and I have a couple of friends who live in Vancouver, Washington, which is, on the other side of the river from Portland. And their house is almost on the water. And between their house and the river is the train track, and which runs right through their backyard, basically, just down below their backyard. And we were sitting on the deck in their backyard having dinner. This was about 3 weeks ago. And the same thing happened. A real long train car came along and went by, and we just sat there and watched it, And it was all tanks and half-tracks and military armored vehicles. It was going east to west. And so my guess was that it's headed for like Seattle or something, but or maybe the port of, the port at Astoria. To be shipped to someplace like Taiwan or something, but I'm guessing, I'm guessing you're guessing, Tim, that this is for domestic use. This is Donald Trump preparing to position the military to use against American civilians. I mean, that's what he told Pete Hegseth this morning. The cities are your training ground now for the military.
That could be, yeah. And they all had rubber tires. The 3-axle, 4-axle ricks. Anyway. Hardware is moving around. Thank you so much for the work.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thanks for the report from there. Gary in Monroe, Georgia. Hey, Gary. Greed has no heart. What's up?
Hi. Greed. Thank you. Hello, Tom.
Hey.
I'm going to try to back up your rant, which I obviously 100% agree with. Look. I've been saying this isn't about me, but I believe I've been saying for quite a while now, we haven't bottomed out. Look what's happening. This is intolerable. This is beyond what's even. This doesn't make a lick of sense. Mm-hmm. We haven't bottomed out. Yep. If we bottomed out, I don't think. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
I know you do.
Yeah. I don't think we've bottomed out with regard to our slide toward fascism. I don't think we've bottomed out with the economy crashing. I don't think we've bottomed out with the government being dismantled. Yeah, I agree.
And one of the reasons you already pointed out, and you're saying it along with I'm saying it, Chris Van Hollen just said it again. One of the reasons Donald Trump was reelected, one of the real major reasons, in my opinion, because the Democratic Party is perceived as not being tough enough.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We're being perceived as not being, and we can't keep going like this. Every hour, I know you got to go. Every hour of the day, we got to call these people out.
Yeah, or call them up and tell them to stand firm. Call your Democratic members of the House and Senate and tell them to stand firm here. Gary, thank you very much. Spot on. We'll be right back. It's 49 minutes past the hour. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Joanne in Ocala, Florida. Hey, Joanne, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I called a few months back about DeSantis and his signing of the open carry bill, if you recall.
Down in Florida, yeah. In your state?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, the Democratic Party has been having rallies in downtown Ocala periodically, and it's usually from 10 o'clock to noon. Mm-hmm. Well, we had that scheduled for October 18th, 10 o'clock to noon. Now, all of a sudden, the pro-gun group is having their rally from 11 until 3, and ours was bumped up to 9 to 11. So they took some of our time, basically. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people aren't going to be going because there's going to be people there with guns.
Yeah.
We usually take up both sides of the street for several blocks. Mm-hmm. And then at one point, the city put up a fence to keep us contained in one little area, but we go for a couple of blocks on both sides of the street. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah,
remarkable.
Is
the pro-gun group and the anti-gun group, for that matter, your group, who's organizing these? What are they affiliated with any groups?
Well, we're with the Democratic Party, the local chapter.
Right.
I don't know I don't know if they're Proud Boys. I think there were some at one of the rallies. They were walking through, and I think there was a minor incident, but they walked by me. I smiled. I mean,
yeah.
I'd like to get into their heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're walking around in open carry. Are they wearing masks?
Well, I don't know if they will be or not.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, when we rallied, they had their trucks, their big trucks, driving around with their flags and trying to intimidate us.
Yeah, I get it. It's like the brown shirts back in the day. Joanne, thank you. Thanks for the call and the report from Florida. I appreciate it. Ed in Portland. Hey, Ed, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I figured I'd give you a report from the insurrection in Portland.
Okay.
And total number of people on the sidewalk and not even in the street, not even on the sidewalk in front of the ICE building, maybe 10 people.
Holy cow, it's war. 10 people. Were they carrying flowers?
I was so scared, and the inconvenience, let me tell you, I was much more inconvenienced by having to slow down for road construction before I got there than in the neighborhood. I drove right through.
Those terrorist construction crews.
And the other thing is no visible police. I mean, they must be hanging back.
Yeah.
One thing I'd tell you, though, that was interesting, last night on local Portland news at 10, I decided to tune into our local Fox affiliate and look at the TV news. And last night and the night before, they were going out of their way to downplay that there's any problem here. So maybe some cracks in the huge Fox News empire, some editorial cracks are possible. Maybe it's worth contacting the people at Fox News here in Portland and see what they think.
Well, if the Fox stations are not Fox News. They're not affiliated with Fox News. Fox News is run as a completely separate empire, and the Fox stations are, basically a money-making thing for the Murdoch empire. And they skew to the right, typically editorially, but they're not Fox News. So, if the local Fox station, Fox-owned station, which typically, doesn't heavily brand itself, is telling the truth, that's not shocking.
Well, maybe there's some backdoor way to have a conversation that might move something, because, like you keep saying, the only way this is going to get any better is if we get our point across to people who are leaning more right.
Yeah, Yeah, I get it. Thanks, Ed. Thank you for the report. It's great to hear from you. Dave in Dunmore, Pennsylvania. Hey, Dave. How you doing in Pennsylvania?
Hey, Tom. I want to encourage a new form of protest called the Million Megaphone Madness.
Okay.
You buy 2 megaphones. You keep one in your car and one at your house. And whenever Donald Trump spews his garbage, you go open your window and you put a supercut right up to the phone from your cell phone on YouTube. You go to YouTube, you get like a supercut of him doing ridiculous things and all of his cronies, and you put it up to the megaphone, and you only let it go for like 3 minutes out your window, so it doesn't really disturb anybody long enough so they could call the cops on you, but it gets your message across. And I also encourage you to do it in front of their houses too, or maybe not their houses, but like near their homes, so that everybody can hear how they're screwing our country over.
Million megaphones. Okay, Dave. Thank you. That's an interesting one. Thank you. Brian in Baltimore, Maryland. Hey, Brian, what's on your mind today? Brian in Baltimore?
Hey, I'm here. How you doing, Tom?
Fine. What's up?
This military meeting today was shocking.
Yes. Especially for people who have been in the military. Most of the people ranting about it on social media are veterans.
Yeah, I've got my entire family served both Vietnam and World War II, and it's just heartbreaking to see what they're doing to the military. And my fear is that, you know, the military tends to be a more conservative body of people to begin with, so they're easily swayed in that general direction already.
Yeah.
And then he's using that as leverage, and then you see on this reversal side in society using religion as leverage, and both of these things are coming together to create a very catastrophic situation for America.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Mikey Weinstein, for the Freedom for Religious, what is it? I forget the name of his foundation, but, he's working against the evangelical efforts in the military, and he's been warning us about this for some time. Military Religious Freedom Association. Go ahead.
You know, Trump had all these military people there. Did he have them sign NDAs or something so that they're going to be their loyalty commitments are going to be hidden?
They recorded it. You don't need. Trump made it so that he didn't need a loyalty oath from them. He just came right out and said it. He said, "If you disagree with anything I say, you're fired." And that's the same thing. I mean, it's military oath. It's a loyalty oath on command. Brian, thank you for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
For the Thom Hartmann Book Club today, it's Waking the Witch, Reflections on Women, Magic, and Power by Pam Grossman. This is from the introduction. Witches have always walked among us, populating societies and storyscapes across the globe for thousands of years. From Circe to Hermione, from Morgan Le Fay to Marie Laveau, the witch has long existed in the tales we tell about ladies with strange powers who can harm or heal. And although people of all genders have been considered witches, it's a word that is now usually associated with women. Throughout most of history, she has someone to fear, an uncanny other who threatens our safety or manipulates reality for her own mercurial purposes. She's a pariah, a persona non grata, a boogie woman to defeat and discard. Although she's often been deemed a destructive entity, in actuality, a witchy woman has historically been far more susceptible to attack than an inflictor of violence herself. As with other terrifying outsiders, she occupies a paradoxical role in cultural consciousness as both vicious aggressor and vulnerable prey. Over the past 150 years or so, however, the witch has done another magic trick by turning from a fright into a figure of inspiration. She is now as likely to be the heroine of your favorite TV show as she is its villain. She might show up in the form of your Wiccan co-worker or the beloved musician who gives off a sorceress vibe in videos or on stage. There's also a chance that she is you, and that witch is an identity you've taken upon yourself for any number of reasons, heartfelt or flippant, public or private. Today, more women than ever are choosing the way of the witch, whether literally or symbolically. They're floating down catwalks and sidewalks in gauzy black clothing and adorning themselves with Pinterest-worthy pentagrams and crystals. They're filling up movie theaters to watch witchy films and gathering in back rooms and backyards to do rituals, consult tarot cards, and set life-altering intentions. They're marching in the streets with Hex the Patriarchy placards and casting spells each month to try to constrain the commander-in-chief. Year after year, articles keep proclaiming it's the season of the witch, as journalists try to wrap their heads around the mushrooming witch trend. And all of this begs the question, why? Why do witches matter? Why are they seemingly everywhere right now? What exactly are they? And why the hell won't they go away? I get asked such things over and over, and you would think that after a lifetime of studying and writing about witches, as well as hosting a witch-themed podcast and being a practitioner of witchcraft myself, my answers would be succinct. In fact, I find that the more I work with the witch, the more complex she becomes. Hers is a slippery spirit. Try to pin her down and she'll only recede further into the dark, deep wood. I do know this for sure, though. Show me your witches, and I'll show you your feelings about women. The fact that the resurgence of feminism and the popularity of the witch are ascending at the same time is no coincidence. The two are reflections of each other. That said, this current witch wave is nothing new. I was a teen in the 1990s, the decade that brought us such pop culture as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Charmed, and The Craft. Not to mention riot girls and third-wave feminists who taught me that female power could come in a variety of colors and sexualities. I learned that women could lead a revolution while wearing lipstick and combat boots, and sometimes even a cloak. But my own witchly awakening came at an even earlier age. Morganville, New Jersey, where I was raised, was a solidly suburban town, but it retained enough natural land features back then to still feel a little bit scruffy in spots. We had a small patch of woods in our backyard that abutted a horse farm, and the two were separated by a wisp of running water that we could cross via a plank of wood. When we were little, my older sister Emily and I would sometimes venture to the other side where we could feed the horses, an act that still scares me to this day, and pick fistfuls of clover. But the majority of our time was spent on our side of the stream, threading ourselves through the thicket of trees that served as our personal forest. In one corner of the yard, a giant puddle would form whenever it rained, surrounded by a border of ferns. We called this spot our magical place. That it would vanish and then reappear only added to its mystery. It was a portal to the unknown. These woods are where I first remember doing magic, entering that state of deep play where imaginative action becomes reality.
I would spend hours out there creating rituals with rocks and sticks, drawing secret symbols in the dirt, losing all track of time. It was a space that felt holy and wild, yet still strangely safe. As we age, we're supposed to stop filling our heads with such nonsense. Unicorns are to be traded in for Barbie dolls, though both are mythical creatures to be sure. We lose our tooth fairies, walk away from our wizards. Dragons get slain on the altar of our youth. Most kids grow out of their magic phase. I grew further into mine. My grandma Trudy was a librarian at the West Long Branch Library, which meant I got to spend many a long afternoon lurking between the 001.9 and 135 Dewey Decimal sections, reading about Bigfoot and dream interpretation in Nostradamus. Waking the Witch by Pam Grossman.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. There's going to be a big rally this afternoon, 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern time at the west side of the U.S. Capitol for health care. Now, of course, this is the dividing line. This is the great split here between Republicans and Democrats. The Republican effort to kill the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, has been going on ever since, Obama got this passed back in whatever year it was, the earlier 2000s and maybe the 2010s. And you'll recall, the Republicans have voted, I think, 54 times. Am I remembering that right? Or was it 45? I'm pretty sure it was 54 times to completely repeal Obamacare, to just do away with it altogether. There's something like 24 million people, I think, right now who are getting their health care from Obamacare. I looked the numbers up. I may be off by a million or two, but it's in that neighborhood. And the Republicans, of course, want to kill it. And so in the big butt ugly bill, the BBB, they have this, ending the Obamacare subsidies. And so, and if you're on Obamacare and you're paying right now, $300, $400, $500, $600 a month for your health insurance, that's going to go up. It could go up as much as doubling. It could go up between 50 and 100%. And you will find out how much it's going to go up in about 2 weeks, when the insurance companies have to send out the letters to everybody saying, here's the new rates for 2026. So, the Democrats are saying we're not going to sign off on keeping the government open unless you guys back off on this, big buttockley. I've got to come up with a different word for it because I can't pronounce that. But the big ugly bill, if you don't back down on that, and also on the, knocking close to 20 million people off Medicaid. So anyhow, there's going to be a rally this afternoon at 6 o'clock Eastern time at the Capitol building. And the speakers will include Amy Klobuchar, Jeff Merkley, one of my senators, Chris Murphy, Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, Pete Aguilar, Dougie Dingell, Greg Casar, who is the chairman of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Mark Pocan, our buddy who's on this show all the time. There's just Pramila Jayapal, who is going to be on the show this week, right? Tomorrow. She's going to be here for an hour taking your calls. Ayanna Presley, Nikki Budinsky, Maxwell Frost, one of the real rising stars, young progressive. He's the co-chair of the House Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. Sarah McBride, the trans member. So we've got a whole bunch of national organizations are participating. And so here's the question. Will the media cover it? I mean, people keep calling into this program going, where are my Democratic? Why aren't they out there yelling? So there's going to be a huge thing this afternoon. At 3 o'clock, it's going to be, 5 hours from now. And, check out your local media. Let's see if it gets covered. I'm skeptical. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries met with Trump yesterday. And this should alarm all Americans. And it's, again, this is only being reported with the softest of brushing, filters. They told Donald Trump that the reason that they are willing to shut down the government is because the big ugly bill cut health care for Americans, and they're not going to stand for that. And Trump, according to them, didn't know this. This is what Chuck Schumer told the press yesterday. He said, "We laid out to the president some of the consequences of what's happening in healthcare, and by his face and the way he looked, I think he heard about it for the first time. The closing of rural hospitals, the fact that so many clinics are closed. And I don't know if he knew this before, but the fact that people will pay $4,000 a year more, $400 a month, close to $5,000 a year on their health care premiums, if we don't do anything, people don't know what to do. The average working family can't afford that. I told him how I met a mother who was crying to me because her daughter had cancer and what has happened with health care and what they've done. She's going to watch her daughter suffer and die." And so he seemed to understand for the first time the magnitude of the crisis. And we hope he'll talk to the Republican leaders and tell them we need bipartisan input on health care, on rescissions. They never talk to us. Which raises the question, if what Schumer is saying is true, and I completely believe him. I mean, why would Schumer lie about this? And Jeffries was there, and he's saying the same thing. It raises an interesting question. If Donald Trump had no idea that average Americans' health care bills are going to explode in the next 4 months, is it because he's getting senile? Which is kind of a charitable word. I mean, some people are saying his father died of Alzheimer's, saying that, he's going down the same road. I'm skeptical that he has Alzheimer's, but, it's obvious he's got age-related, memory problems. I mean, this just happens to people when they're pushing 80. Not unusual. But this, forgetting that his bill that he was so fond of is doing these massive cuts to health care for millions, tens of millions of Americans. Seems like a hard thing to forget, doesn't it? Which raises the second question. Is his staff lying to him, knowing that he would be concerned about such a thing? And I think he would be. I mean, there's a political price to pay for that, and Trump is very sensitive to paying political prices for anything, number one. Number two, historically, I mean, when Trump was a Democrat, when he was in New York City, before he ran for president as a Republican, he was in favor of health care for all. I'm not sure he was in favor of Medicare for all, but he wanted health care expanded. He was a Democrat. So he understands these issues. So is his staff lying to him and saying, "Oh, it's all BS, don't worry about it," or, it'll blow? Or is his staff telling him, "Yes, this is true, but not to worry because it'll blow over, 6 months down the road, a year down the road. The election isn't until next year, the midterms, and your reelection isn't for 3 more years, so you don't have to worry about this right now. This just, let it blow over." Except that if they were doing that, if that was their riff, if that was their line to Trump, he wouldn't have been shocked to learn these details. He would have said something like, "Yeah, okay, I get it. This'll blow over. People will adapt. They'll just have to, they'll just go to the private insurance companies. Private insurance companies are fine. They give the GOP a lot of money. They're good companies." So which is it? Is it that he cynically doesn't care and he feigned ignorance? Is it that he is genuinely ignorant and astonished? And by the way, after the meeting, he goes back to attacking Democrats. That's when he released this video of Schumer and Jeffries at the podium there outside the White House when they were speaking about their meeting with Trump. Only that it's got dubbed audio where Schumer is saying, "Yeah, Democrats, we all know that we're just all pieces of S-word, right?" And Jeffries is wearing a sombrero and he's got a Mexican mustache and there's mariachi music in the background. I mean, it's just deeply racist and, filled with lies. So I don't think he's saying, oh yeah, these guys convinced me. I'll do something about it. So which is it? Is it time for the 25th Amendment? I mean, that's what Eric Swalwell is saying based on this morning's rant before the military, where Trump just went off on these weird tangents. And Hegseth basically, and Trump said, we're going to use our cities for military training. How do you feel about that? The military in our cities training? Really?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's a little more than 15 minutes and 40 seconds past the hour. I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. And welcome back. And let's see. He's been on hold for a while here. Alvin in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Hey, Alvin, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you. And thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's up?
Yeah. What do you think about that holiday is going to be for Charlie Kirk? Shouldn't the Democrats voted against that? Nancy Pelosi didn't even vote.
Yeah, I think I don't recall what the vote was. Yes, there was a vote to make a national holiday. It didn't pass, though, did it? Or did it pass the House?
I think it did.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Well, I doubt it'll make it through the Senate. I'm sorry, Alvin. I never really caught that story. I recall the headline, but I didn't read it.
Yeah. I think Stephen Miller is the president.
I think Stephen Miller is running the White House. I do. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think Susie Wiles is just keeping things organized.
Yeah. You ever heard of a guy? I'm not quite sure you have. Curtis Parvin.
Oh yeah.
He's up there.
Moldius Goldbug or something like that was his pen name, and he's the author of The Dark Enlightenment. He's the guy that J.D. Vance thinks walks on water, and he's the one who's saying democracy is over, basically.
Oh yeah. He had said, man, I think the Democrats got to do something real urgent.
Yeah, I'm with you. Alvin, thank you. Thanks for the call, and thanks for pointing that stuff out. Javier in Los Angeles. Hey, Javier. Thanks for listening to KPFK. What's up?
Hi. Well, first of all, I'm a great admirer and great fan of yours. I mean, thank you for being such a beacon of light in these dark times, the dark ages of America as we're suffering them. And I just wanted to give you my 10 cents on what I find out, in my opinion, the main problem of these so-called American democracy, which has never been a democracy, to be honest, and is a major structural problem, which is the lack of proportional representation.
Yeah,
I'm originally from Europe. I came here to about 35 years ago, and that's the root cause that I see, the lack of interplay of political parties. We live in a duopoly of two parties. One party is a party of omission, of inaction, never do anything. They overpromise and they never deliver, the Democrats. And the other party is a party of destruction, of action that destroys the system and only caters to the rich, right? And both parties, they cater to the interests of the rich people, and we've never had in this country a true party that fights for the working class, that fights for what you were describing, universal health care, for free education, for all the things that people, working class people like me and you, need, right?
Yep.
And we need more parties. We need a system, and until we get a system of proportional representation where all the political views are represented in the government based on the percentages of votes that they get, we will never fix all these issues. We will be victims of Citizens United and all these scams and all these horrible things that have crippled this country. And now, in the situation in which we're right now, is because of that, because we only have two parties. One party, it's a total, a total joke. The Democrats, they don't do anything, sorry.
Yeah.
and the other party is destroying the whole country. Because
I get it, Javier, and I agree with you.
So-
It would be great if we had proportional representation. The closest we can get to that is instant runoff voting, and that's why I'm a big fan of it. Neither party likes it, which is why we don't have it. But I think you've identified a large problem. The other one, of course, is the Supreme Court saying that money is the same thing as speech. Javier, thank you for the call. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So what do we call the really, really mind-bogglingly rich? At the founding of the Republic, they were referred to as speculators or moneyed interest or aristocrats. In the years leading up to the Civil War, we called them the cotton lords and the plantation aristocracy. In the late 19th century, they were the robber barons. In the 1930s, FDR called them the economic royalists. But since the Reagan Revolution, we've just called them billionaires. And now, some of them want to call themselves tech bros. Like, that's kind of a good thing, like tech is positive and bros, like Mark Zuckerberg saying we need more masculine energy in American business culture. So we need a new phrase. I would like to suggest the morbidly rich. Morbidly suggests unhealthy. And the vast riches that some of these people have is unhealthy to our democracy, particularly since 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court said that morbidly rich people can buy politicians. And it's unhealthy for them, too. So morbidly rich. There's an op-ed over at HartmannReport.com all about it. Check it out.
Marching boots on city streets, paper laws beneath his feet. Every voice that dares to sing falls silent in the shadow of a crown. It's good to be king if the people kneel, if the truth is buried, if the courts won't feel. It's good to be king, but the throne's built on sand, and the people must rise if this dream's to stand.
22 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. U.S. Department of Justice has deleted a study showing that right-wing extremists are responsible for the majority of politically inspired violence in the United States. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Republicans are hiding federal data, basically, so we won't know the kind of damage they're doing to our country. Just consider this list. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, CBPP, laid this all out in a new report. And this is the essence of it. They have deleted the Department of Agriculture's annual home food security reports. These are the reports that showed that as many as a fifth of all American children go to bed hungry at least one night a year. Maybe it's one night a month. This is followed by the one big ugly bill producing the biggest cuts in SNAP, food stamps, in history, at a time when, 47 million Americans, including 1 in 5 children, are facing food insecurity. This is from an article by Julie Conley over on commondreams.org. She writes, the administration has shown no interest in tracking weather disasters via the $1 billion Weather and Climate Disasters Database, which was discontinued in May. They stopped reporting on the crimes against queer Americans via the National Crime Victimization Study. That no longer exists. They've stopped even counting the number of queer people in America, the LGBTQ plus communities, via the National Health Interviews Survey. They've stopped the federal government collecting data on mass layoffs. They don't want you to know how bad the unemployment situation is. The Department of Health and Human Services, Bob Kennedy's agency, has placed researchers with the Pregnancy Risk Assessment Monitoring System on administrative leave. That was back in April. This is the agency that keeps track of how pregnant women are doing in this country. It also tracks maternal mortality. This is how we learned that black women are more than twice as likely as white women to die in pregnancy or in childbirth. Also, Bob Kennedy has laid off the analysts who work on federal poverty guidelines that are used to calculate eligibility for parts of Medicaid, nutrition, and home energy assistance. So they're actively screwing America and Americans, and doing away with the databases and the reports and the studies and the researchers who would tell us about it. I guess it's good to be king. Bob in Melbourne, Florida. Hey, Bob, thanks for listening to WMNF. What's on your mind today?
Oh, I was talking with a guy the other day. I casually know him. I knew he's a Trumper. Mm-hmm. And he said the problem with the left is that we don't understand the problems. And I said, I understand the problem. The problem is that we have all these, these Muslim, Latino, transgendered teenage immigrant welfare mothers on drugs, and they're storming the border, and they're stealing our jobs and eating our pets. And the solution, obviously, is to slash the VA, invade Greenland, and defund Tickle Me Elmo.
And what did he say?
He just looked at me like, and that's what I hear from these people.
I know, it's crazy.
It's
beyond crazy. It's sad, really.
You know what I learned? Here's another one for you. I learned that in the state of Florida, it is a violation of state law to have sex with a porcupine.
Or any animal, yeah.
But porcupines aren't even indigenous to Florida. But anyway,
does the law name porcupines?
It's the transgendered teenage immigrant welfare mothers on drugs.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on.
There you go, Bob. Yeah, and all those people trying to have sex with porcupines. I get it. We've got a real crisis here in this country. We need to send the troops in with fully loaded automatic weapons and let them train for Afghanistan down there in Melbourne, Florida. Bob, look out. Bob, thanks for the call. 27 minutes past the hour. I'll back with more of your calls.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the place where despair is not an option. We are going to stand up and we are going to fight. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
This
Thom Hartmann Book Club is Cokeland, The Secret History of Coke Industries and Corporate Power in America by Christopher Leonard. This is from the preface. On May 18th, 1981, 4 Wall Street bankers traveled to Wichita, Kansas. They went there to make an offer to Charles Koch, the CEO of an obscure mid-size energy company. The bankers from Morgan Stanley wanted to convince Koch to take his family's company public, offering shares for sale on the New York Stock Exchange. Their deal was squarely in line with the conventional wisdom of corporate America at the time. Going public was seen as a natural progression for companies like Koch Industries, offering them access to big pools of money and promising enormous paydays for the existing team of executives. All it required from the CEO was to surrender control. Morgan Stanley, in return, would collect a small fortune in fees. Charles Koch was 45 years old. He had run Koch Industries since he was 32 when his father died suddenly. He was trim, tall, and had an athlete's build. He spoke quietly in meetings and seemed almost passive. The bankers laid out their plan to take Koch public. They revealed what, to most executives at least, might have been the most significant detail. If Charles Koch agreed to the deal, he could earn $20 million overnight. The bankers seemed incredulous when they prepared a confidential memo about Koch's reaction. He does not want this cash, the memo reported. Charles Koch calmly explained to them why their offer made no sense. His company was breathtakingly profitable. It operated in vital, deeply complex corners of the American energy industry. During the 1980s, Koch Industries was the largest purchaser and transporter of U.S. crude oil. It owned an oil refinery. It employed teams of commodity traders who bought and sold a wildly diverse menu of raw materials and financial products, from gasoline to paper futures contracts. This might have encouraged most CEOs to take their company public. Koch Industries, however, did not want outsiders to know how much money its traders were earning. Taking the company public would expose too many of its secrets. The memo said certain of Koch's commodity traders are particularly worried that their high salaries, once disclosed to the public, would be used against them by their trading partners. Secrecy was a strategic necessity for Koch Industries. Charles Koch did not want to surrender it. He also didn't want to surrender control. He had a specific, clear vision of how to run his company, and he didn't need Wall Street investors to interfere. If the bankers expected Charles Koch to go along with the conventional wisdom of their time, then they, like so many outsiders, did not understand him. Beneath his low-key veneer, Charles Koch was, at his core, a fighter. He had unmovable ideas about how things should be, and he did not back down when challenged. When he was challenged by his own brothers for control of Koch Industries, he fought them in a bitter legal battle that lasted decades. When he was challenged by members of a powerful labor union during his first years as CEO, he fought them even as they committed an act of industrial sabotage that nearly destroyed Koch's oil refinery. When the FBI and the U.S. Department of Justice launched a criminal investigation into Koch Industries' oil gathering business, Charles Koch fought them with every legal and political tool at his disposal. When a liberal Congress and President Barack Obama sought to impose regulations on the fossil fuel industry to control greenhouse gas emissions, Charles Koch fought them in ways that changed U.S. politics. In each of these fights, Charles Koch prevailed. When Charles Koch dismissed the bankers in 1981, it was just a small skirmish in the larger war to control Koch Industries. After prevailing in that fight, he created a company that was true to his vision. He avoided the snares that entangled many publicly traded companies that report their financial results to investors every 3 months. Koch Industries didn't have to think quarter to quarter. The company thinks year to year. An internal think tank and deal-making committee called the Development Group will sometimes think through a business deal on a timeline measured in decades. This long-term view made Koch more nimble where other companies stumbled. In 2003, for example, Koch Industries bought a group of money-losing fertilizer plants when no publicly traded company was willing to take the risk. Today, those plants are as profitable as a broken ATM machine that spews out cash around the clock. Unlike publicly traded companies, Koch Industries does not pay out rich dividends to investors. Charles Koch insists on reinvesting at least 90% of the company's profits, fueling its constant expansion. This strategy laid the foundation for decades of continuous growth. Koch Industries expanded continuously by purchasing other companies and branching out into new industries. It specialized in the kind of businesses that are indispensable to modern civilization, but which most consumers never directly encounter. The company is embedded in the hidden infrastructure of everyday life. Millions of people use Koch's products without ever seeing Koch's name attached. Koch refines and distributes fossil fuels, from gasoline to jet fuel, on which the global economy is dependent. Koch is the world's third largest producer of nitrogen fertilizer, which is the cornerstone of our modern food system. Koch makes the synthetic materials used in baby diapers, waistbands, and carpets. It makes the chemicals used for plastic bottles and pipes. It owns Georgia Pacific, which makes the wall panels, beams, and plywood required to build homes and office buildings. It makes napkins, paper towels, stationery, newspaper, and personal hygiene products. Koch Industries owns a network of commodities trading offices in Houston, Moscow, Geneva, and elsewhere, which are the circulatory system of modern finance. The book, Kochland, by Christopher Leonard.
A lot of people wonder, where did this whole right-wing movement to basically gut our freedoms and end DEI and all this other, where did this all begin? It all started back in 1951 with a book called The Conservative Mind, From Burke to Eliot by Russell Kirk. And he argued that if the middle class ever got too big, you'd see young people and women and racial minorities all get up on their hind feet and start protesting and basically screwing up America. And in the 50s, even Republicans thought he was nuts. But then the 60s happened and all those protests, and suddenly Republicans thought, yeah, he's right. We've got to destroy the middle class, or at least cut it back. And that was Reagan's mandate when he came into office in 1981. There's a whole article about this. You can read all the details. It's titled The GOP's 60-Year Conspiracy to Kill Our Democracy. None dare call it treason, but I will. Over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
He stood in a mill with his red tie tied, told the boys in hard hats, I'll stand and fight. But behind that grin and the photo flash was a deal with the devil and a payday stash. Steel was strong, but the truth is cold. He sold out the workers for a bar of gold. Laid off in Gary, gone in Duluth, while the billionaires laughed in their tailored suits. It's the great American terrorist scam, a fistful of promises, a smokescreen sham. Jobs fall down while the prices climb, and the ones that get rich are the friends of the crime. He said, I'm here to help, then he took what he can. That's the great American tariff scam.
Welcome back. 36 minutes past the hour. In that interview this morning that I did with the British journalists, they were like, what are your thoughts on Trump's tariffs? And I'm like, obviously they're not to bring the jobs home. If you wanted that, you'd run it through Congress so it becomes law, so that people in business know that those tariffs are going to be in place for decades, and they can actually build a factory here and regain their, recoup their investment. But instead, what Trump is doing is he's using these tariffs to force other countries to grovel at his feet, to kiss his ass, to invite him to the palace in London, to come here and tell him how wonderful he is. And it's bullying behavior. That's all it is. It is the great American tariff scam. So what's on your mind? Glenn in Bethesda, Maryland. Hey, Glenn, what's up?
Hey, how are you, Tom?
I'm good. I'm fine, I guess is how you're supposed to say it.
I called a few years ago, and I read to you a little piece of Abraham Lincoln's annual message to Congress, his concluding remarks, December 1st, 1862. He had said, and it's well worth reading, we must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered what Lincoln meant by disenthrall ourselves. What were Americans enthralling themselves about? Well, it was about the issues of the day, slavery, secession, and whatnot, but it was the way Americans were talking. And I'd like to bring that to today. We keep going over every day exactly what Trump and the Republicans are doing today, so we don't remember what happened last week. So the question isn't anymore what they're doing each day. We know it's bad. Most of us, I think, know it's very, very bad for our democracy. But what's really happening is we're not asking, how are they getting away with it? And you talk about this an awful lot. The media is enthralling us with each day's new event.
Yeah.
And what we need to ask our Democratic congressmen and senators basically is, why aren't they taking the fight to the media? And I'll give you one example really quick. Over the last couple of weeks, Donald Trump has been saying that Portland is war-ravaged. I'm asking the question, when I call my congressman, why don't you go on and ask Jake Tapper if CNN has helicopters and cameras and trucks to go through the streets of Portland to prove the president is lying completely? Yeah. Do they not have the ability? So the issue that you talk a lot about, which I think is the main discussion, is this isn't being done by Trump and the Republicans.
Alone.
They're the distraction and the mouthpiece, which is allowing the corporate takeover of this country to immiserate the American people and destroy our middle class and set us against each other.
Yeah.
It's a simple reality, but the Democrats simply won't move over to the progressive, populist side and steal what's right, take back what's rightfully theirs, the FDR mantle, the LBJ mantle of supporting the American people through programs the government has put together. And as long as we keep talking each day about these things, we're going to be lost and enthralled. So in order to disenthrall ourselves, we have to ask our Democrats, will you please start putting a finger into the face of the corporate media and say, why are you letting these people get away with destroying our democracy and our middle and working classes? That's the message I have. But it doesn't seem to get very far. When I call my congressmen and senators, it's the Democrats just don't want to step up.
Yeah.
So
I get it, Glenn.
what do you think about that?
I think the Democratic Party is moving in a more progressive direction, and that progress has been fairly steady over the last decade or so, since the end of the Obama administration. And now Trump, with his open, naked assaults on democracy itself, have moved more and more Democrats into, a fighting stance and frankly, a progressive stance. And you're seeing this with in particular with Democrats in the Senate. And I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing, too. I think it's coming very late, though.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that.
I'm just questioning.
Corporate cash is addictive.
Again. Right. And you can watch it. You turn on CNN, a Republican comes on and lies for 15 minutes to Jake Tapper. He nods his head up and down, tilts his head, nods his head, asks us maybe a slightly difficult question, and allows the propaganda to come through continuously. This is the corporate world using its control of the propaganda networks to enthrall the American people with the everyday fight. And until the Democratic Party goes on and starts pushing back at this, we are lost.
No, I agree. You're getting redundant here, Glenn. I'm going to move along, but I agree with your analysis and your prescription. Thank you. Aaron in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Hey, Aaron, what's on your mind today?
Well, hi there. Thank you so much for you and free speech.
You're welcome.
I called regarding this military demand to train our military in the cities of the country. That's going to be their training ground. And I'm thinking of Pearl Harbor, 1941, where we really needed military prepared for real threats. And I'm wondering, how are we going to be prepared for real threats when our military is learning to fight against flowers and soap bubbles?
Which is what they're getting in Portland.
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. And what Glenn just said reminds me of an ad, about Enthralled and the corporation. I see this ad now for a home security weapon that, everybody should get this to protect themselves. And one of the things they say is, with all the violence and the riots all over the country, I really need this weapon. And I'm thinking, what violence? What riots?
What weapon? I've not seen that ad. What weapon are you talking about? Is it?
It's called. They advertise it with a banana, and they say, if you want to see what this weapon really looks like, go to our website. And it's I forget the name of the company, but it's a home. It's like a gun, only it's like a rubber coated bullet kind of a thing, where it's not supposed to be lethal.
Right.
And they're pushing this for everybody to get this for protection from all these riots and everything we got going on.
That's wild. Is that on Fox News? Is that where they're advertising it?
No, it's just on Antenna TV. Just ads that come on various networks on Antenna TV. And I'm thinking, my gosh, the corporations are pushing this too, not just Fox. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure we can even invade Greenland successfully if we're only training against flowers and soap bubbles.
Well, it looks like we're gonna have some practice in Venezuela. But by the way, there's a report that a Venezuelan woman has come forward and said that her husband was one of the fishermen in one of those boats that Trump blew up, and that it was just a fishing boat. And
I know.
And Trump apparently knows that, because you'll recall a couple days ago he made a joke about, they're not fishing in the waters down there anymore. This is a crime. This is an absolute
That's like going crime. They're going down the street and shooting somebody unarmed in the back.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yep.
It's just
and it's just as cowardly, by the way. It's just as cowardly.
Yes, exactly.
Aaron, thank you.
And that's what mobs do.
Yeah.
And that's what MAGA is a mob.
There you go.
Okay.
Aaron, thank you very much. Good talking to you, and thanks for the call from Iowa. Alan in Seattle. Hey, Alan, what's on your mind today?
Hey, well, there's so much going on, and it's tough to follow Bob in Florida and porcupines.
Yes. Keep America safe for porcupines.
Last week you, last week you said something about 53 Republican senators representing only 40-odd% of the population.
Correct.
And my theme for today is the tyranny of the minority. Obviously, I did a little research and took like a 12-second look at Article 1, Section 3, where each senator gets one vote, and all the votes have the same weight. Mm-hmm. And just imagine, say, 3 jars, and each senator has a coin. They get to cast their one equal-weighted vote into a jar, a coin into a jar. But, California, a senator represents 67 times more people than a senator from Wyoming.
Yep.
So let's assign each senator's vote a weight proportional to the population they represent.
And have you done the math on that, Alan?
What's that?
Have you done the math on that?
I have.
You want to fill us in here in the 15 seconds I've got before we hit a break?
Okay. Well, we know the Senate likes to pass arcane rules, so a senator from California his vote would have a value of 11.5, and a senator from Wyoming, the least populous state, would have a vote of 0.17. This would eliminate the tyranny of the minority.
Yeah, I like it. It ain't going to happen, and I'd much rather see proportional representation.
I'm not missing it, no.
Yeah, or California split into 3 states and like that. But spot on. I mean, this is the problem with the Senate, is that it is so unrepresentative of America. And, it's also basically a millionaires club, with the exception of Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. Alan, thank you for the call. That's great information. Appreciate it. 46 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where smart people get their news. And welcome back, Marie in upstate New York. Hey, Marie, thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's up?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm calling just because this is going to be real quick, but I decided to call Schumer yesterday and thank him for what he's doing now. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was a good thing to do, and I was really surprised that I got an answer for the first time I've ever called there and got a real person to talk to. Uh-huh. And I told this guy that I respected and wanted to thank Schumer. And he seemed to be overjoyed that he got that call.
That's great.
And that surprised me. And I got thinking that they're probably getting a lot of hate calls and stuff now.
Well, Schumer and Jeffries are standing up right now. God bless them. They need all our help.
And I called Jeffries off too, and I didn't get any response there. And then I called my own representative, who's a Democrat, and told him, keep backing those guys and praising them, because I think they really need it.
You're doing what we all need to be doing, Marie. Thank you.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you,
Okay,
Tom.
Good on you. Thank you very much. Renee in Sheridan, Oregon. Hey, Renee, what's up?
Hey, I just, sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy because I hear people trying to talk about Trump and how he's, like he's normal. This guy is crazy. I totally, they need to do something with the 25th Amendment. Of course, these people that are around him won't do anything, but this guy is nuts. He's a psychopath, and he has no empathy. And when Schumer went in and talked to him and Trump acted surprised that people are getting kicked off the health care, he knows it. He likes to cause people pain. He's doing what he wants to do. He's been a psychopath all his life, and he's nuts.
Yeah.
But that's why I called. That kills me how we try to make him seem normal.
Yeah.
And another thing, that guy that called up and said how the Democrats don't do anything, take a look at Biden's, what he did politically. Take a look at Johnson. Take a look at all these Democratic presidents that have done so much for the American people. And like you say, the Republicans can't even bring one thing to the table that they've done for the American people.
Yeah, in 44 years, yeah. Yeah, the last Republican who actually cared about the average American and did something about it was Dwight Eisenhower. And he was president from 1952 to 1960, or 61 actually, technically. And he built the interstate highway system. He built hospitals all across America. He built brand new schools. I attended one. It was first year, the school just opened, and I was one of the very first students in first grade in Lansing, Michigan. Yep. And that was all Eisenhower. Eisenhower started the program for gifted kids that saved my life. Sputnik went up in 1957, and I think it was 57, maybe it was 56, and freaked everybody out. And so they started all these really high quality programs in our public schools. And he was the last honest Republican. He was also the last Republican who was elected without committing treason against the United States. Nixon blew up the Vietnam peace deal. Reagan blew up Carter's negotiations with the Iranians. Bush, his brother, threw 90,000 African Americans off the voting rolls in Florida. It's nuts. Renee, thank you for the call. Thank you. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Human beings have a couple of unique characteristics. The first is that we can be very tender and loving and concerned and caring toward people we perceive as being our group, us. We can also be extraordinarily violent against people that we consider to be them, if we think of them or this other as a threat. Probably the classic example of this is Adolf Hitler convincing Germans that, Jews were a threat to them and good Germans going along with the Holocaust. Well, this othering is built into our DNA. This is, ancient stuff. And the Republican Party, since the time of Nixon, when he started, picking up the white racist vote after Democrats laid it down in the 60s, the Republicans have been using this to try to other minorities in America as a political strategy. And this is really deadly stuff. There's a whole op-ed about it over at HartmannReport.com. Is othering human nature's deadliest instinct? Check it out.
Once we dreamed of freedom, once we dreamed of light, but the shadows grew taller in the silence of the night. He came with a promise, I'll make you great again, but he sold out the people for the gold of wicked men.
52 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Michael in Bronx, New York. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for getting me. I always love talking with you.
Thank you. Back at you.
Likewise, good buddy. We're facing a government shutdown. I am so outraged. I'm sick and tired of these Republicans doing the atrocious stuff and got the nerve to say that the Democrats ain't doing the right thing.
Yeah.
No, Democrats are doing the right thing. They are not sabotaging the very needs of the American people that you Republicans are doing. It's you the ones that's supposed to do the right thing. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, and Tom? What this is a deja vu from the last government shutdown, which was under who? Donald Trump. Yeah. And at what time of year? During Christmas. He had the audacity to say, you don't give me what I want, I'll shut the government down. Damn it, he's doing it again with a little help from his friends. Sorry, Paul McCartney and the Beatles. This time around, it's around Halloween. We're approaching October, Halloween. What the hell are you trying to do, Trump? Spook the American people? You think this is funny?
Yes, he is.
And I'm referring
he thinks
to that
chaos
AI.
Helps him. That's the bottom line, Michael.
He thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
He thinks it's funny because of that AI stunt that he pulled with Hakeem Jeffries. I find that any of this a bit damn funny when the American people are suffering, and then you call that make America great again? It's my rump.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't take it anymore. And then you're going to try to sock back at me or others saying, try to bring up the fake Christian stuff. Don't even get me started because everybody knows yours truly, the dedicated foe of BS and the one that will cite Christian scripture to counter your guys' BS.
Yeah. No, I totally get it,
Two
Michael.
words.
And
Get inspired. There's 2 words closing. Get inspired.
Yeah.
And we all do the correct thing.
There you
Don't go rogue.
Yep.
Thank you, Democrats.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Well said. Joe in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Hey, Joe, what's up?
Not much, Tom. There's always so much. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
A great show as always. I did have a couple of items I was wanting to throw at you. One was just kind of my weekly. I had a couple of weekly vomit moments. One was, our lovely James Clyburn, the corporate tool of the DNC, is endorsing Andrew Cuomo based on experience and character.
Oh,
Are
my
you
God.
kidding me? Yeah, so this is another one. They go in there and they go, we need you. We need you to go in there.
It was Clyburn who killed off Bernie Sanders' candidacy in 2020,
Yeah, after he said he wouldn't get involved.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to point out to people, just because sometimes we don't see numbers, but Trump's administration has about 100 people in it. 87 of them are white, and the population is about 61%. They're 90% male. In Biden's admin, it was 50% male and 50% female.
I know.
And only 13% of Biden's admin were white males. So it's just more proof that Trump is a misogynistic racist. The other thing I thought you'd find interesting, you're probably aware of this, as Hitler came to power in the Nazi Party, there were some high-ranking gay officials. But once they got power and they controlled everything, and the Protestant nutters wanted more blood, and they went after the gays in the general population, they went after the people associated with...
Yeah, Ernst Röhm was one of them. He was the head of the army. He was the head of the SA, and he was assassinated, as I recall. Or they did something with him, but yeah. Yeah, I get it, Joe. Joe, thanks a lot for the call. I wonder if Scott Bessent, the Treasury, our gay Treasury Secretary, ever wonders, what Trump would do to him if he had his way. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com.
We say fight back!
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Unsettling Truths, the Ongoing Dehumanizing Legacy of the Doctrine of Discovery by Mark Charles and Soon Chan Ra. This is from Chapter 1. You cannot discover lands that are already inhabited. I, Mark, said this almost under my breath as I walked past a line of men dressed as Spanish sailors from the 1490s. I was in front of Union Station in Washington, D.C., near the massive statue of Christopher Columbus overlooking the United States Capitol. Every Columbus Day, there's an official ceremony in this plaza honoring Columbus as the discoverer of America. I had stumbled upon this ceremony by accident the year prior. There were a few non-natives holding signs and protesting the ceremony, but nothing very disruptive. I went back the following year primarily out of curiosity. I wasn't intending to protest, nor did I want to make a scene. As I walked up behind the statue and approached the group of men dressed as Spanish sailors, the words just came out of my mouth. You cannot discover lands already inhabited. As I walked further down the line, I said it again, this time a little louder. You cannot discover lands already inhabited. As I continued walking, I came to the front of the line where a group of men dressed in suits were standing. I repeated myself, making sure they could hear me. You cannot discover lands already inhabited. Suck it up, was the reply I heard as I kept walking. By this time, I'd walked around the statue and reached the front where a small stage had been erected and chairs set up for people to watch the ceremony. It hadn't started yet, but more than half the audience was seated waiting for it to begin. So I stopped near the center, turned toward the crowd, and in a calm but loud voice I said to the people, you cannot discover lands already inhabited. That process is known as stealing, conquering, or colonizing. The fact that America calls what Columbus did discovery reveals the implicit racial bias of the country, that Native Americans are not fully human. Quickly, one of the white men dressed in a suit walked over and interrupted me. You are not welcome here, he said as he grabbed my arm and began walking me away. I attempted to explain the inappropriateness of both celebrating this holiday as well as hosting this ceremony, but instead of engaging in conversation, he threatened me with arrest and escorted me from the area. As I walked away from the gathering, I was amused at his words and the irony of their context. A white man participating in a public ceremony honoring Christopher Columbus as the discoverer of America, telling a native man he was not welcome in that space. How did a flawed assumption about the place of the indigenous population in U.S. society become normative? How are assumptions so deeply ingrained in the American psyche and imagination that dysfunctional and oppressive actions emerge? How did a dysfunctional idea and worldview form that allows for the displacement of native bodies? One of the explanations for the formation of this dysfunctional worldview is the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery is a set of legal principles that govern the European colonizing powers, particularly during the administration of indigenous land, regarding the administration. It is the primary legal precedent that still controls native affairs and rights, and international law formulated in the 15th and 16th centuries. From a theological perspective, the legal and political role of the doctrine of discovery is rooted in a dysfunctional theological imagination that shaped the European colonial settler worldview. The doctrine emerged from a series of 15th century papal bulls, which are official decrees by the Pope that carry the full weight of his ecclesiastical office. On June 18, 1452, Pope Nicholas V issued the papal bull Dum Diversus, which initiated the first set of documents that would compose the doctrine of discovery. The official decree of the Pope granted permission to King Alfonso V of Portugal, quote, to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, Muslims, and pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ wheresoever placed, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever, held and possessed by them, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his or their use and profit. End of quote from Pope Nicholas's papal bull of 1452.
Doomdiverses would identify the Saracens, a common term for Muslims at the time, and pagans, essentially identifying any non-Christians as others, as those who could be targeted for, quote, perpetual slavery. The papal bull intentionally used language that identified those outside the European Christian world and enforced the Western theological imagination of non-Europeans as other. The Portuguese took these ecclesiastical statements to heart and perpetrated the slave trade from the African continent to the European and the American continents. As a Christian ruler, the King of Portugal would have power endowed from the church to take possession of the other as slave labor from the continent of Africa. The pagan African body was just another commodity to be taken for the pleasure and profit of the European Christian body, the one made most fully in the image of God. In the January of 1454, Pope Nicholas authored another bull. The book is Unsettling Truths by Charles and Rob.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. Our weird alert for the day, this is truly strange, is that there's this guy out there on the internet, and he hasn't identified himself, so we all need to take this with a large grain of salt. But he's getting a lot of press, a lot of publicity. Dean Blundell, in particular, has been writing about him over on Substack. Dean, B-L-U-N-D-E-L-L, he's a progressive Canadian who has just a great Substack newsletter I subscribe to. I recommend. And he says, don't tell me you're not enjoying Grindr-gate. Grindr, of course, is the kind of gay dating app. And this guy is claiming that Mike Johnson has a Grindr profile. And he's threatening that if Mike Johnson doesn't swear in Adelita Grijalva, you know, my old buddy Raul Grijalva's daughter, as a congressperson by tomorrow, by October 1st, by Wednesday, then he's going to release the screenshots of Mike Johnson's gay Grindr dating profile. And Dean Blundell says this isn't extortion, it's exposure. Now, you know, this, as is so often the case, if this is true, it would make a certain amount of sense that, you know, Mike Johnson has been so outspoken about being anti-gay, and, you know, he monitors his son's computer, and they have this deal where they watch each other, you know, looking for porn, and they've got apps on each other's phones and stuff like this. If you'll recall, you know, Roy Cohn was gay and made it his life's mission to destroy the lives of gay men. And he destroyed a lot of them. J. Edgar Hoover was gay, and he made it his life's mission to destroy the lives of gay men, and he destroyed a lot of them. And Mike Johnson has been, you know, doing things that would destroy gay men's lives, and women too, lesbians and trans people. And so, you know, if there's any truth here, this is going to get interesting. At the moment, it's just kind of weird. So we're calling this our weird alert. I'm not endorsing this. Like I said, take this with a huge grain of salt. But this guy says this is about truth. This is about accountability. This is about the Speaker of the House trying to block justice in the Epstein case. Of course, the reason he wants Adelita Grijalva sworn in is because she will be the 218th vote to sign the discharge petition, forcing the House of Representatives to have a vote on whether to release the Epstein files to the House of Representatives. So keep an eye on this. It may be a non-story. In fact, I've had this story for a couple of days, and I've been sitting on it thinking, you know, and accusing people of being gay almost sounds like homophobia. But when somebody is so outspokenly embracing hate of the queer community, and there's the possibility that it's real, and Dean Blundell is a solid guy, then, you know, it may be worth knowing about. So just, you know, hang on, we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll release it, maybe he won't. If he doesn't release it tomorrow, because, you know, Mike Johnson's not I'd say virtually 100% certainty that he's not going to swear in Adelita Grijalva tomorrow. So, although if he does, that'll be curious. If he swears her in tomorrow, or today, does that mean that he submitted to what you could call blackmail? I don't know. Anyway, there was an election on Sunday in Moldova. Moldova is this little tiny country. It's got 2.2 million people. It is between Ukraine and, I don't know, what would that be? Poland, I think. I'm not looking at a map right now, but it's on the western border of Ukraine, and it has, historically it was a Russian vassal state, a Soviet vassal state. It was part of the Soviet Union. And now it's an independent nation, and they've got a couple of political parties there. They've got proportional representation, parliamentary system, and so they have multiple parties. But the two biggest parties are the Action and Solidarity Party, which goes by the initials PAS because it's in Moldovan, not in English, and the Patriotic Electoral Bloc. And the PAS party, the Party of Action and Solidarity, is the pro-European party. And the Russian Patriotic the Patriotic Electoral Bloc is the pro-Russia party. And the PAS party got 50.2% of the vote in this election that they had on Sunday. Everybody was worried because the Russians have just been flooding social media, mostly Facebook, but just flooding social media in Moldova with stories that their president, who's a woman, has been importing sperm for herself and has been, just doing all kinds of weird stuff, right? Just weird stuff that they've been accusing her of, but it's really gone viral. And the election happened, and she won. The pro-European candidate won her party won with 50.2% of the vote, and the pro-Russian bloc only got 24% of the vote. But this is where it gets interesting. As soon as the Russian shill lost the election, or his party lost the election, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, it's an international monitoring organization that observes elections around Europe, issued a statement saying, it was a good, solid election, all that kind of thing. And the Russian media and the Russian social media just went nuts. And they are accusing, this is from TASS, quote, Moldovan elections feature widespread fraud in favor of ruling party, claiming that the Moldovan government, quote, engaged in widespread fraud and ballot stuffing. The Russian newspaper, Gazeta.ru, owned by the state-owned bank, wrote that PAS's victory was only possible due to, quote, the maximum possible use of electoral manipulation, falsifications, and other violations. And they quoted a Russian political scientist. There's a lot of Moldovans in Russia and in Italy, actually. There's the large Moldovan diaspora in Italy. Maybe Moldova borders on Italy. Again, I'd have to look at a map. But they're pushing this in other countries as well. The pro-Kremlin X account, Global Dis, GLOBALDISS, posted a video saying, in Italy, Moldovan voters showed up 30 minutes after polls opened and found ballot boxes already full. Ballot stuffing isn't just for failed states anymore. The EU did it in Romania. Now it's Moldova's turn. They rig elections to force EU integration. And that post got 113,000 views and 1,000 likes in one day. And it was a video of ballot stuffing going on, but it was ballot stuffing going on in Azerbaijan months before this election. So, it was an actual video of actual election fraud, but it wasn't happening in Moldova, and it wasn't happening in Italy among the Moldovan citizens who live in Italy, the Moldovan diaspora, who are allowed to vote in the Moldovan elections, which is not uncommon, by the way, among the European countries. Wherever you live, you can still vote in the country where you hold a passport. And this is another pro-Russian said, allegations are surfacing that the Central Election Committee is enabling election fraud by allowing ballots for opposition parties to be burned. Meanwhile, PAS Bally's, this is the pro-Europe Bally group, remained untouched. And that post received 157,000 views. And again, this was video, and actually, quote, the video resembles the work of Russian Storm 1516 influence operation, which has previously staged videos purporting to show the destruction of ballots during the 2024 U.S. presidential election and in Germany's February 2025 snap elections. So basically what's going on in Moldova right now is that the Russians are doing to the Moldovans what they did to us in 2020, claiming that Donald Trump lost because of election fraud. And of course here, that did considerable damage. So, Russian influence operations continuing to go. Continuing. And finally, our crazy alert for the day. This is totally nuts. California Highway Patrol. Just imagine this. You're a highway patrol officer, and you're out there with a speeding camera or whatever. You're looking for people who are breaking the law, and some guy comes down, rolling down the road, and makes an illegal U-turn. And you turn on your lights and flip on your siren and go chase that car down, and it pulls over like it's supposed to. And you get out of your car and you walk up and you look in, and there's nobody in the driver's seat. There's nobody in the front seats at all. The car was driving itself. It was a Waymo car. And the guy is like, what do I do now? So, actually, California legislators anticipated this sort of thing. And they passed a law that says that police officers can issue a notice of noncompliance to the company that owns the car in a circumstance like this, which was Waymo. I mean, these are the driverless taxis, right? But that law doesn't go into effect until next July, summer of next year. So right now they're like, what do we do? The police, this is San Bruno Police Department. And he says, since there was no human driver, a ticket couldn't be issued. Wild stuff, right? Wild stuff. Anyhow, it's 17 minutes past the hour. We'll pick up your calls for the rest of the hour, see what's on your mind, and I'll share some of my thoughts with you, of course. So what's up? It's the Thom Hartmann Program, helping you win the water cooler wars. We'll be right back with your calls. Stay tuned.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Exposing the con and conservative. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Rick in Castro Valley, California. Hey, Rick, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm fine. What's up?
Good hearing from you. Well, I went to the store this morning, a little grocery store that I frequent, and there's a young man that's there, just a pleasant young man from the Philippines. And this is the closest I've gotten, I've been touched by Trump's craziness. This young man went to the immigration office here in the Bay Area and was deported.
Yeah, they're doing that. They're taking people who have permission to be here, and they're pulling that permission when they show up for their monthly check-in, and then getting them out of the country.
So I'm speaking to his aunt, and we came to the conclusion that given the climate in this country, maybe is a great place to go, is home, because as an African-American, I have no out. I have no place to go. I am stuck here. This is my home, my country. My folks have been here for over 400 years. So it's just heartbreaking. But it's also, there's something to be said that if you can get out and go someplace where you're comfortable and not being deported to some foreign country that you're not familiar with, there's something to be said about even having that option.
Yeah.
But then I know you got calls stacked up. One thing, this whole notion about all white army and trying to take, do away with the diversity. That was one of the greatest accomplishments in American history. A diverse national defense system. Mm-hmm. Army. And so what are they going to do? I mean,
they're already doing it, Rick.
All these young.
One of the first things Hegseth did when he became defense secretary was he went in and he fired a whole bunch of senior military officers who were either black or female.
Well, you know what? Some of the great fighters in this country have been black, have been females.
Yep.
Again, this is sort of like my friend from the Philippines. So we're going to sit here and watch them send off all these poor, uneducated young men from these rural communities to defend the billionaires and the millionaires.
Yep.
So we get a chance to just kick back and watch this craziness. This is beyond comprehension what they're doing. They are actively trying to destroy this country. It's heartbreaking. I can't believe these people in Washington, Republicans, are allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. I'm dumbfounded by the whole
Well,
situation.
it's a really easy answer. Why, Rick? This is white nationalism. This is these, Hegseth, Trump, all these guys. Obviously Thom Hartmann, the guy who takes bribes, allegedly. They're all gung ho for an all-white America where white men run the show, and they just don't want any more brown people in this country. From 1924, when we got our first immigration law that restricted immigration, until 1965, immigration was restricted to maintain the racial balance of the country. You couldn't, people of color could not immigrate into the United States legally or get a green card or permission to be here or whatever. If they exceeded the percentage, whatever it was. In 1965, LBJ took that down. Congress took that down. They rewrote that law, and they made it colorblind. And what happened then was, from 1965 up until the Trump administration, you had a lot of people of color coming into the United States, and getting green cards and getting visas. And now what they're doing is they're trying to kick them all out because they want to make it an all-white America. That's they want the white majority. And also kicking all these people out, by the way, particularly from blue cities, is going to reduce the numbers in the census, which is going to cause some of these cities to lose their members of Congress. I mean, there's a real agenda here, Rick. I got to run. Thank you for the call. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them.
Dear MAGA, you raised your fist so high, screaming justice as a tear gas filled the sky. You wore your cap, stood proud in that hall while your Messiah hid behind gold-plated walls. He told you he'd save the kids in chains, but he flew first class to Epstein's planes. While you feared basements that don't exist, he was soaking in spaz with a teenage guest list. You stormed the Capitol for a man who knew damn well where those jet wheels ran. He said, protect the girls from evil's hand, then drank with the monster on his private land. You believed he'd end the child abuse, but he was toasting with the ones who cut them loose.
23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. AJ in La Mesa, California. Hey, AJ, what's up?
Tom, happy Tuesday. How are things in the war zone?
Yeah, well, so far so good. They haven't set my house on fire, or I've been able to dodge the bullets. I mean, it's okay.
Is your bomb shelter all set?
Yeah, we're working on it. You got to dig it out underneath the house. Yep.
Outstanding. I wanted to dovetail on something you said just a little while ago. I would suggest that a significant number of those who scream the loudest and the shrillest about the so-called homosexual agenda were perfectly described centuries ago. To wit, the lady doth protest too much, methinks. Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 2.
Yeah, there you go. So you're speaking of this guy who's threatening to out Mike Johnson.
Yeah, and others. I mean, this hyper-masculinity of Hegseth and people like Russell Vogt and the other religious zealots who, keep citing ancient dogmas created by ignorant, frightened, superstitious people in order to subjugate other ignorant, frightened, superstitious people, and the deeply held beliefs derived therefrom, virtually none of which comport with evidence-based reality, which, of course, is what science describes. Yeah. And, more recently, Carl Jung expanded upon the bard's insight with his theory of the shadow, which listeners that are not familiar with that can easily look up online. Yeah. And it turns out that homosexuality is a fact of nature and is ubiquitous amongst all higher animals. Yep. You might remember, some years back, PBS did a program on the penguins and how they mate for life, yep, and yada, yada, yada. And
the gay penguins who took care of the egg. When Louise and I lived in the Willamette River, we used to live in a floating home. So we were, surrounded on all four sides by water. We had a pair of gay ducks. We talked about them on the air here, mostly on my local show. This was back a decade ago, a little more than a decade ago. And we called them Adam and Steve.
The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation has the longest continually running science program in broadcasting history. It's broadcast on Saturdays. It's called Quirks, Q-U-I-R-K-S, and Quarks, Q-U-A-R-K-S. Uh-huh. And back in 2016, they had one of their episodes was called The Nature of Sex. And the listeners that might be so interested can look that up online. And at around, 14 minutes into the segment, there's a discussion on homosexuality by a researcher, and that basically discusses the fact that it's ubiquitous amongst all higher animals. And let me leave you with this. I would assert, affectional orientation, which I think is probably a more accurate term than, quote, sexual orientation, close quote, and gender identity are traits. Yeah. It is religion that is a choice.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, AJ.
Thanks, Thom.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much. Appreciate the call. And perfect timing, by the way. We're hitting the break here. We'll be back with more of your calls on the other side of this break here at the bottom of the hour. Stay tuned. It's the Thom Hartmann program. It's the True People's Media. Talk media for the rest of us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. Call 202-808-9925.
Sitting here drinking my carrot juice and having a fine old time as Portland burns in flames. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Is by Harvey J. Kaye, Professor Harvey Kaye. Take hold of our history, make America radical again. This is from the introduction. On December 1st, 1862, in the midst of the Civil War, just weeks before he was to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, President Abraham Lincoln delivered his annual message to Congress. Lincoln firmly believed that the United States had an historic responsibility to demonstrate to the world that people can govern themselves, make equal rights not just a self-evident truth, but a manifest one, and create a political and economic order in which working people, both white and black, are not compelled to bow to anyone, neither aristocrats nor capitalists. Empowered by tens of thousands of black slaves who were already liberating themselves from bondage by escaping to the Union lines, and increasingly confident that the majority of his fellow Americans would recognize the truth of what he was saying, Lincoln closed his address by calling on them to see that the time had come to remember who they were and what they demanded, or what that demanded. He told them that to save the nation and all that it represented, they must live up to the nation's declared revolutionary purpose and promise, and act to radically enhance American freedom by bringing an end to slavery. This is a quote from Lincoln's address. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We say we are for the Union. The world will not forget that we say this. We know how to save the Union. The world knows we do know how to save it. We, even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give and what we preserve. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth. We too, end of quote from Lincoln, back to Harvey. We too cannot escape history. Our own struggle to save the nation and the promise it proclaims has begun. Finally, after more than 40 years of fear-driven class war and culture war campaigns against the democratic achievements of generations, the hard-won rights of workers, women and people of color, and the very memory of how they were secured, and now both in the wake of the election debacle of 2016, which gave the presidency to the corrupt, mendacious, racist, sexist, and treacherous demagogue Donald Trump, and continued control of Congress to the formerly conservative but increasingly reactionary Republican Party, and in the face of intensified class and culture war campaigns, we the people have come not only to recognize that American democratic life is in jeopardy, but also to mobilize in hopes of saving it. Millions of us have rallied to the resistance and expressed our democratic fears and desires in action. In the historic Women's March and March for Our Lives of young people, the protests, demonstrations, and legal actions to defend the lives and rights of immigrants and refugees, the Me Too movement to combat sexual assault and harassment, the massive teachers' strikes for higher pay and better funding of public schools in states red and blue, and the enthusiastic canvassing and campaigning for a blue wave to win back Congress in the 2018 midterm elections. But resistance is not enough. The time has come for us to remember who we are and what that demands. The time has come for us to embrace our radical history, the history of how a generation of Americans, high and low, and in all their diversity, not only turned their colonial rebellion into a war for independence, but also imbued American life, whether they all intended it or not, with radical imperative and impulse by declaring a revolutionary promise of freedom, equality, and democracy for all. The history of how generations of radicals and reformers served as the prophetic memory of that promise, and how generations of ordinary men and women, native-born and immigrant, struggled to make real the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to expand not only the we in We the People, but also the powers of the people. And most especially in view of the crises we ourselves face, the history of how our greatest generations confronted and prevailed over the forces that threatened to destroy the nation and bury its revolutionary promise in the 1770s, 1860s, and 1930s and 1940s, not to mention the 1960s, by acting to make the United States, both inspired by Washington, Lincoln, and FDR, and pushing them to go farther than they might otherwise have gone, radically freer, more equal, and more democratic than ever before. The time has come to take hold of that history and make America radical again. I've titled this collection of my speeches and essays, Take Hold of Our History, Make America Radical Again, for reasons that will become obvious, and yet I cannot help but confess that if I had had to title it otherwise, I would have been sorely tempted to use, with full attribution, the title Max Lerner gave to his 1938 work, It Is Later Than You Think, The Need for a Militant Democracy. While it may not seem so, the crisis we face is no less demanding of action, urgent action, than that which confronted his generation. The book Take Hold of Our History by Harvey J. Kaye.
Help support Progressive Radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it. Donald Trump lost, voter suppression won in 2024. That's the headline over at HartmannReport.com, and just a brilliant article written by Greg Palast, exclusively for the Hartmann Report, He writes, Trump lost. That is, if all legal voters were allowed to vote, if all legal ballots were counted, Trump would have lost the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Vice President Kamala Harris would have won the presidency with 286 electoral votes. And if not for the mass purge of voters of color, if not for the mass disqualification of provisional and mail-in ballots, if not for the new mass vigilante challenges in swing states, Harris would have gained at least another 3.5 million votes, topping Trump's popular vote tally by 1.2 million. Greg brings us the numbers. He lays it out. You can read it over at hartmanreport.com, absolutely free. It's titled Trump Lost, Vote Suppression Won at hartmanreport.com. Check it out.
Well, I went down to Walmart looking for some socks, but the shelves were emptier than a banker's heart in a paradox. The clerk just shrugged and said, they're stuck in Guangzhou, but we've got $10 toothpicks if that helps you though. We got the tourist tantrum blues. Trump's got the world confused. He slapped a tax on everything from steel to baby shoes. The ports are crying, shelves are drying, the prices through the roof. We're paying more for less and less. Economics gone poof.
Welcome back. So I have a new book out, The Last American President, A Broken Man, A Corrupt Party in a World on the Brink, and I will be signing books in Chicago on October 15th. You can get the information over at WCPT's website, WCPT.com. And I'll also be in Los Angeles on October 18th, and that will be in conjunction with KPFK, our Los Angeles affiliate, and you can get the information on their website, kpfk.org. So check it out. Be there or be square, as the old saying goes. Picking up your calls here, David in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I got a couple things. I'll try to be very succinct here. The first thing is all the electrical bills because of these data centers. Now, prior to Oklahoma, we got Google Data Center. And I run very efficient. I've got central heat and air, got my computer on, got my refrigerator, occasionally use the coffee pot, wash load will close every now and then, and occasionally use the stove. And I get, matter of fact, on the energy efficiency, I'm at the very top of the efficient, but my rate's gone up to $10. And they're building another data center. Now, the Corporation Commission's getting ready to vote on this, but not once has anybody mentioned the word stocks. And you've been in business. I've studied, we studied it, and that was one of the reasons why you issue stocks, is to build new facilities and such. Yet, this is all the onus is put on the local residents.
Yeah, I think you mean bonds, not stocks. But
right, well, stocks and bonds, but even stocks, common stocks. If you look on the definition of stocks, I had a test question on this from macroeconomics over at
companies are generally reluctant to issue stocks to raise money because what it does is it dilutes the stock pool and drives down the stock price, which, in this era where CEOs are paid based on stock performance hurts. But bonds don't affect that at all. Bonds are basically IOUs.
But my point is that we were taught in college that stocks is, we always have these IPOs, initial stock things.
Initial public offering,
One of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why you issue stocks is to build. That was one of the.
Yeah, when you're starting out, you do an IPO to raise money. You're absolutely right.
But also included is new facilities, expansion of facilities, repairing. Like say you have a refinery that blows up. Well, they don't do that on bonds. They issue stocks to repair the refinery.
Interesting. Good point. Yeah, and we're seeing the same thing here in Portland, David. One of the reasons that Louise and I put solar panels on our roof last September, and we've got 30 kilowatts of battery storage, and we're expanding that to 60 kilowatts in a couple of weeks, is because the power company. They raised rates here in Portland. I believe it was around 8 or 9% last year, and they're talking about a 15% raise this year. Because again, these data centers and these AI centers.
But if you read the paperwork on that solar thing, it is very predatory. I can't do it. You can't sell your property if you've got one of the solar things because the way that they lock in the mechanical lien really just screws you up. I wanted to do one outside, but I don't have the money, and since I don't have the job, and right now I'm on Social Security and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring up something else. as far as getting rid of data, I worked with a guy. He's dead now. He was a geological petroleum geologist who went into hydrology. And he was doing things for EPA. And we had with MapQuest, EPA had a database, and you could put in the data point, the address or whatever, and it would look at any place where they had a spill. It would tell you, that there was a contamination. They would tell you what the contamination was, what the projected regional area was. But that was killed as soon as George Bush came into office.
Yeah, there you go. And now Trump is taking this to an extreme. By the way, on your solar roof, you don't have to finance that with the solar roof company. You can just get a second mortgage on your home if you want. If you want to make payments on it. And then you just roll that into the cost. If you sell your home, you just roll that into the deal.
But the way that they've made the whole financial system, we have no protection. There is no FTC. There is no Security Exchange Commission. There's no Consumer Protection Agency. This is all caveat emptor, and that's especially in financial. They have made nothing but instability. I don't know how anybody could assess risk. For limited liability.
Well, welcome to the libertarian Republican world, where there is no oversight from the government.
Extreme caveat emptor.
Yep, exactly.
The big thieves hang the little ones.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. David, well said. Thank you for the call, and thanks for laying it out like that. Phil in Asheville, North Carolina. Hey, Phil, what's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Tom. Are we great again yet?
Don't get me started, Phil.
Anyway, I heard you talking about the troops and the trains and all that, and the thought occurred to me that what if they pull this during the elections?
Oh, I think that's their whole scheme here, Phil. This is all preparation for 2028, in my mind.
Well, I think 2026.
Well, maybe 2026, but
they can't afford to lose the elections. They've crossed the Rubicon too many times, and that's all of them.
You're absolutely right. If the Democrats take the House, and now Republicans are gerrymandering enough states right now to get themselves 17 more seats in the House of Representatives. But I think that at least half of those are going to be kind of precarious because as they gerrymander out blue districts, they're diluting their red districts, and if there's an overwhelming blue wave, it's going to swamp that. So, we'll see how it plays out.
That's my point, because they can't afford to lose. They'll do whatever is necessary.
Yeah.
And if it's putting troops on the streets, that's part of it. And I'm not sure the election wasn't rigged anyway, but that's another thing.
Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to, people are always talking about Democrats can't, their messaging and all that. And I told the screener, you can't out-message a lie. You're not going to out-message the Republicans.
Yep.
A lie, and people don't understand why. A lie only requires faith, whereas the truth requires data, context, information, and it's complex.
Right.
And
right.
you just
you can't just handle it with credulity. Yeah, you're right. Phil, thank you. Well said. Very well said. Thank you. Bill in Sun City, Arizona. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Tom, I've been listening to talk radio for a very long time. We're similar ages. Like from WMCA, from a man named Leon Lewis. Great man. Many years ago, I listened to him on MCA. But in all the time I'm listening to talk radio, the two words I never hear are social engineering. The proof of it, that it's working, is that the Trumpsters, when you have a discussion with them, they gaslight themselves. That's the proof that it's working.
Well, give me. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by social engineering. I've heard the phrase before, but I've never heard a clear definition of it. What are you talking about?
Propaganda. It's a one-word explanation of it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to work on all of us. It just has to work on enough of us to exacerbate the situation.
Yeah.
You understand that?
Yeah, I get it.
And that's what we're doing. And we have to become more aware of it. Our awareness of what they're doing. I mean, Tom, during the Bush administration, I became aware of them looking into a camera and lying objectively.
Yeah.
Just boom.
Yeah.
Right at us.
George Bush, Colin Powell. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so what's acceptable, what's unacceptable? What's unacceptable is lying. Because when you lie to somebody, you hold them in totally disregard. That's if you lie to them once.
Mm-hmm.
If you continually lie to them, you have no respect for them.
Yeah.
And that's the point that has to be made, and this has to stop. Yeah. The lying, the looking at a camera and saying things that are.
Oh, and you see it every Sunday on the political shows. You know, the Republicans come on and they literally lie right straight to the camera, and 9 times out of 10, you know, on MSNBC they'll call them out, but 9 times out of 10, particularly on CNN and on the big television networks, they just let it slide. You know. And that's how they get these little lies in here.
This was the first Sunday in my 71 years. I turned off the Sunday talk shows.
I get it. Ali Velshi on MSNBC is pretty much all I watch. Thank you, Bill.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I think the big truth tellers in our media right now are Ali Velshi and Rachel Maddow. And Lawrence O'Donnell increasingly. He's doing a great job, but just those 3. And Wayne in Savannah, Georgia. Hey, Wayne, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I was just listening to the news earlier today, and I was really disappointed at Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania.
Oh, he's gone down the rabbit hole.
Caved in to the Republicans and the MAGAs, and it's just really disappointing that the Democrats really need to stand firm. And after all the support that after his health issues and stuff like that during his election, I just hope the people of Pennsylvania contact his office and urge him to reconsider and stand firm with the Democrats.
Yeah, I get it, Wayne. I totally get it. What is the website? Hang on just a second, Wayne. What's the website, Sean? I gave the wrong website for WCPT, but anyway, back to you, Wayne.
Yeah, so that's all, and you can just go to anybody can go to the just do a Google search on call your own U.S. senator if they're a Democrat as well as a Republican, and just go ahead and urge them to make sure that they stand firm and help the poor people.
Agreed.
That are being
you don't even have to do a Google search, Wayne.
off.
You could just call 202-224-3121 and give them your zip code, and they'll tell you who your member of the House is and who your 2 senators are, and they can connect you directly to them. So it's real
cool.
easy. Yeah, it's great.
That's
Wayne,
cool.
Wayne,
yeah.
thanks a lot for the call. It's nice hearing from you. I appreciate it. Tony in Fairplay, Colorado. Hey, Tony, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Great to be with you again. This is what we're witnessing with this military speech and what Trump has been doing. I think we should try to refer to it as much as possible as insurrection 2.0, because that's what we are really witnessing right now is insurrection 2.0.
Well, it's also the politicization of our military, and that is something that has not happened in the United States since the Civil War.
Right, and if either the Dems or Lincoln Project, somebody do a couple of political ads. One would be where they juxtapose the speech, January 6th speech, with Trump's today's military speech. Juxtapose the two of them together. They are really the same thing. The first one, January 6th, was Insurrection 1.0, and today was Insurrection 2.0. And another ad was simply titled Lies.
Yeah.
They can grab Republicans telling lies all over Congress, Trump, everywhere. Put it weekly so everybody anticipate it's coming. They see it, they recognize it, and they add to the list of the incredible mistruths that.
Why are you calling it insurrection, Tony?
I'm sorry?
Why insurrection? Why that word? Because he's planning. It's a military coup. He's planning for the military to take over America.
Yeah. Well, look who he spoke to on January. Look who he spoke to on January 6th. Very, very similar mindset of people, except now it's bigger, better, it's more professional, and he's got Hegseth running the show for him.
Yeah.
So it's 2.0.
Yeah.
It's the same stealing of our democracy, but it's much more intense.
I understand.
And at a much higher level.
I get it. Tony, thank you. Well said. Appreciate the call. We'll be right back. Amazing. It's 49 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in just a second. Stay tuned. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back, 10 minutes before the hour. By the way, the Chicago, I said, I gave the wrong website for our Chicago affiliate. It is WCPT 820 AM. WCPT 820 AM if you want to sign up for the book signing that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Naomi, speaking of WCPT, Naomi listening on WCPT's stream in Santa Monica. Hey, Naomi, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Listen, I was thinking about Article 25. You said it's time to invoke Article 25?
Yeah, or 25th Amendment, yeah.
The 25th Amendment, I mean. We can't do that. You know why? Because he has all the sycophants are the cabinet members, and you need 2/3 of the cabinet members to report to Congress.
Yeah, and you need the vice president to initiate it. And you know, Vance might do that, but I doubt it.
Yeah, it depends what's up their sleeve. Yeah, they've got something planned. We don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah,
and the other thing I'm thinking is, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I suspect that all this military stuff that's going on right now is all preparatory for the elections next year, next November. Because if they lose the House, Trump is toast. Because the investigations that the Democrats will initiate will lead to his downfall and to, just widespread destruction of the Republican Party as their lies and thefts and everything else get exposed.
You know, all of this toying with the elections that the Republicans are doing isn't going to help them. The only thing that's going to help them is if they prevent the election. They can toy all they want. Everybody's going to vote blue except a small percentage of real diehards. So all the gerrymandering they want to do is not going to help them. And I think they know that. That's probably why they want to militarize the country. The other thing I wanted to mention, one more thing. Remember you mentioned Wellstone? We were talking about conspiracy theories about the air crashes.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, and I'm not a conspiracy nut. But do you remember Carnahan, 2000?
Who what?
Senator Carnahan.
Oh,
Senator Carnahan in 2000.
Uh-huh.
His plane fell, too.
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah.
They couldn't dislodge Wellstone. They could not dislodge they were both progressive.
Yeah. I've heard the theories that, somebody slipped a little magnet in next to the altimeter or something like that, or next to the compass.
Yeah, I don't know. It just can't be a coincidence. It just couldn't be.
I'm a pilot, right? I'm a small pilot, a small plane, private pilot. And, so I have been since I was 21 years old, 22. And, they do crash from time to time. I nearly crashed once. I took off in the Novi, Michigan airport going with the wind instead of against the wind and was having a real hard time getting altitude. And I was within 10 feet of clipping a bunch of power lines. Pilots make mistakes. And so I'm not convinced. But I am concerned.
But it's interesting that happened to who the targets were of these accidents. Accidents.
Yeah. No, I get it. But the pilot went down too. The pilot died too, and I guarantee you the pilot did not want to die. So that was not.
No, of course not.
It had to either have been sabotage or pilot error or some kind of mechanical
I think it was
failure.
They were sabotage.
Yeah. So I don't know. But Naomi, thanks for the call. Nice to hear from you. I appreciate it. Bill in Greenup, Illinois. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Hey there, Tom. We have a lot of really...
Bill, I need you to get your microphone closer to your mouth. You can keep your phone on speaker or whatever you're doing, but just get your mouth closer to the microphone because I can't hear you. Just hold it right up to your
Okay,
face.
how's that?
It's a little bit better.
Okay. How's this?
That's a whole lot better, yeah. So what's up?
Okay. All right. We have a lot of really wide-awake Democratic representatives and senators. There's some that are kind of half asleep, but we've got some really good wide-awake guys and gals.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you know of any of those people who are making an accounting of this catalog of emolument violations and other extra-legal actions by the president and the administration, looking to the future for possible action against these guys?
Yeah, Senator Whitehouse certainly is. And wouldn't surprise me if Senator Wyden is. I don't know explicitly, but Senator Whitehouse has actually turned this into a podcast series. It's called The Scheme.
Oh, really?
And he wrote a book about it, yep.
Right.
And, it's basically, how Republicans are rigging elections and all this other kind of stuff. And I think you'll find it fascinating. You can find them over on YouTube. So check it out, Bill. I want to get one last call in here. Thank you. Robert in Santa Rosa, California. Hey, Robert, what's up?
Oh, I was just thinking about the problems we have here in California and what caused them. And we had the problems back in 1960 when they were threatening farmers and trying to use farmers to get rid of legal green card carrying Mexicans because they wanted illegal. I talked to the people at the top of what was going on at that time. Mm-hmm. And the people that we were working for, they hired me and my crew and said, hey, we can't have any outsiders. I want to use the Mexicans. And he said, we can't use any outsiders to find out what's going on. Yeah. And they used a 1 week's job to turn into 4 weeks to demand that those ranchers feed that.
I get it, Robert. I'm sorry, Robert. A, your phone is breaking up, and B, we're hitting the end of the hour. So, but thank you for the call. And I hope next time your phone is working a little better. Thanks so much for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. That includes you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the folks around you. Stay safe. And if you're in Portland, duck! No, just kidding, actually. Bring more flowers. I'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1 hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3 hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We take